Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now. Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
The East is where we're from. The 12 tribes of Israel. 721 BC, the Assyrian king, he took us down, we fell. With a great wind to the Euphrates. The Lord held the water still.
We got you on hold, young man.
To a land where no man can dwell. We went. The 12 tribes of Israel. We be Manasseh, the Cubans, Ephraim, from Puerto Rico, Naphtali from the house of Hawaii. The Lord is calling back Israel. From Panama, yeah, the North American Indians, Libya, the Dominican, the highest gathering in Israel. The Arabs and Africans told us, at gunpoint, to gather our wives and children they sold us. In the belly of these great ships we traveled and fed. By the rivers of Babylon, we found our brothers here. A high gathering in Colombia, moving from Australia. It's across the Mexicans. A high gathering in living in the Viva, the Haitian. A high gathering in Israel.
Shalom, brothers and sisters. Our highest gathering in Israel. Where's the year?
Asia, in Colombia, moving from Australia. It's across the Mexican. That's who we be. Judah, the Negroes.
They say that the sound is not good.
Manasseh, the Cubans,
I need someone to hear it.
Ephraim, from Puerto Rico, Naphtali from the house of Hawaii. The Lord is calling back Israel. From Panama, yeah, the North American Indians, Syria, the Dominican. The highest gathering in Israel.
Shalom, brothers and sisters. This is Elder Rawchaa, the Gathering of Christ Church here. We're here with a very, very important broadcast, okay? Right before we go on, let's just make sure you all can see and hear us clearly. Some people say it's an echo. Maybe it's because I was singing along with the broadcast, that something else was going on. Who knows? But I'm here before you today with our new radio broadcast, and it should sound fine. We've been setting up for the last 4 hours, 3-4 hours, so it better be clear. I'll tell you that. How you doing today, brother?
Outstanding, Elder. Outstanding. Pleasure to be here today. You know, this is, I think, 2 weeks in a row, I think, right?
2 weeks in a
All
row.
praises,
Now,
all
yes.
praises.
And we do have Elder Lawya with us, I think. Lawya, you with us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Shalom.
Shalom. How
Shalom,
you doing
Captain.
this evening, Elder, brother?
Doing well, sir. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, brother. Just stay in the background and make sure you bring that Bible. I have my Bible ready. I have my keyword study Bible, KJV. Okay, so I'm ready to rock. We have an important, a very, very, very
Yeah, I'm excited.
important
I'm
broadcast.
excited about
I'm
the show.
excited about this broadcast myself, yes. We have a guest this evening. Our guest this evening, believe it or not, is Dr. Theron D. Williams. He's the pastor of a particular book called Bible. The Bible is Black History.
Uh-oh.
And a matter of fact, hey, it might get a little controversial this evening, brothers and sisters. Hey, I'll tell you what. I just spoke with Mr. Williams, very nice gentleman. And I said, you may have noticed an uptick in sales because, if anything, even if the doctrine is not the same at this time, we promote the awakening on every level when a pastor stands against opposition by presenting the truth to our brothers and sisters who are suffering in these ghettos, in these inner cities, who have no knowledge of themselves. And there's a lot of pastors who have dropped the ball, who refuse to tell our brothers and sisters in the areas, in these war-torn areas, that we're suffering a curse due to the disobedience of our forefathers, and continue to teach our people that it doesn't matter who we are, all things are relative, and that the law is done away with. Okay? I think that's Dr. Theron Williams. Let me see if that's him. Did you just come in, Dr. Theron? Are you with me?
Did I miss you? Yes, I'm with you.
Hey, sir, you didn't miss me. You're right on time. A matter of fact, I think everyone you here. I just pulled you in with the rest of us. How you doing, Doc?
I'm doing good, Elder. How are you tonight?
Hey, I am blessed by the best, and I don't know if you've seen the Gathering of Christ videos, but his name is Ahaya, his name, the great I am. And I thank the Most High for his blessed son, Jesus Christ. And I thank the Most High for you, really etching out a little time for this broadcast this evening. How are you doing, Doctor?
Man, I'm doing good, man. My pleasure, man. Thank you for having me at the gathering. Man, I really do appreciate it.
All right. Let's jump right in. Right now, and be sure, brothers and sisters, as you come in, hit that like button because it's going to drive the traffic. It's going to let everyone know that the broadcast is going live. It's only a short broadcast this evening, 2 hours maximum. Okay, so please hit that like button so we can drive the traffic. Right now it's 500. It should be up with 1,000 to 1,500 within the next 7 to 10 minutes, hopefully. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do me a favor, Doc, if you can, right now, because I'm hearing a little feedback. Am I on a speakerphone, or are you listening to the broadcast on the outside of us? How is that going on your side?
No, I don't. I'm just talking to you regularly, man.
Okay, so there's no speakers and you're not listening to anything in the back. Great. That's great. All right. Dr. Theron D. Williams, the author of the book, and I want you all to see this if you haven't purchased the book already. Okay. The author of the book, special guest, folks. Yes, hit that like button as you come in. Come on. Bible is Black history. Now, I have a lot of questions for you, Doc, today. And of course, we must be cordial and respectful here because that's what it's about, brothers in Christ. We need you to introduce yourself to all the brothers and sisters out there. Who are you? Where you're from? Just introduce yourself, even though, we had a broadcast on you about 2 weeks ago
yeah.
for about 2-3 hours. But go ahead. Tell us about yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm a native of Detroit, Michigan. Grew up in the Jeffries housing projects in Detroit, Michigan, and left there at 19 to enroll in college at Virginia Union University, and did an undergraduate and a graduate degree there, and pastored a small church while I was there. And upon completion of my seminary training, I was elected pastor of Mount Carmel Church in Indianapolis, where I now reside, and traveled back and forth to the University of Chicago to study. Did a doctorate there, and pastored my church, family, children, and that type of thing. So yeah, and I've always had this this passion for black studies, the study of our people, the history of African Americans, and I always knew intuitively, Elder, that there was a close relationship, a kindred spirit, if you will, between the African Americans and the ancient Hebrews. It was just something, when I read their story in the Bible, there was a connection. I couldn't put my finger on it. I couldn't figure out why I felt so connected to the biblical community. And, I started doing my research and my study and came up with this. Actually, it was the millennials, Elder, who started questioning Christ, questioning the validity of the scripture, started questioning the origin of the Christian church. They even began to question the existence of Jesus Christ, if he existed or not. And of course, there was a mad defection of young millennials from the black church. And, I was conducting exit interviews with these young people as they were leaving, and they all had a similar complaint about the theology of the church, about the efficacy of the church, the legitimacy of the Bible, the historicity of Jesus. They questioned all of that. And so I started researching to see if they were onto something, to see if their questions were legitimate. And it drove me deeper and deeper and deeper into this. And so I conducted it started off as a 1-month Bible study to refute everything that they had heard, getting all this misinformation and disinformation off the internet. And, the internet has algorithms, particularly these social media platforms. They have algorithms, and they lump people together on the basis of what they think, what they believe, how many likes and clicks and all of that. So what you have is a virtual community of millennials who believe the same thing, that Jesus was a fake. The Bible conspired with white supremacy to keep the African docile and non-resistant to slavery, all of that. And the reality is many of the young people in my church were a part of this virtual community. And so it was supposed to be a 1-month Bible study to refute all of that. It ended up being 9 months. And it really set my young people free, really enlightened them, to help them to understand what exactly was going on. And I saw how it affected the life of my congregation. And so I took those notes, put them together, and wrote this book, The Bible is Black History.
Okay. All right. And I know a lot. I mean, there's so many areas we can talk about initially. I'm interested in it. I'm sure other brothers and sisters who are going to call in. The number is 515-605-9327. They may have some questions, but I have a few lined up for you, Doc. The first thing I would like to ask, right? Because I've heard your story before, as far as other pastors saying, or just regular old people saying, well, listen, I was tired of my belief being questioned and stomped upon. So I went and began to research and realized that there was some truth to the fact that these blacks who were suffering in the ghetto fits the prophecies of the book of Deuteronomy 28, and the other people who are out there claiming to be who they're claiming to be really don't fit that piece of the puzzle. Like a torn people that would go into captivity wouldn't be ruling the world at the very end, but I digress. What I need to ask you, Dr. D, we have Dr. Theron D. Williams on, the author of the book, The Bible is Black History, for those who've just come in. My question to you, sir, is even though what spearheaded your search is what's like every shepherd's task is to make sure you're protecting and helping the sheep. So your initial reaction to this was in Shirley Shepherd mode, right? But yeah, right. But this is what I have to ask you. Even before you went into your studies, right? You had to have known that something was going on with our people of biblical proportion, but just couldn't put two and two together, and it was something that wasn't being taught in modern day theology. It's as if they're steering us away from the key component, and that's us connecting with the Bible as the people. So the question I'm going to ask you, sir, is because what you're going into, and it's probably just the beginning. You probably want to let us know, when did this journey start with you finding out you were an Israelite. But through this journey, I know I've been faced with much opposition. I mean, because it's not just a black or white thing. It's all the responsibility that comes with realizing that we may be, or we are, the people of the book, right? So,
Hmm.
so my question is to you: have this been welcome in the Christian community? What you have delved into, or have there been blowback with you actually researching this particular history? And if so, blowback by who?
Well, Elder, it's funny you asked that. And people ask me that all the time. Are you getting any blowback? Are you getting any resistance? The truth is, it seems like this book is coming at a time when our people are welcoming this. I've not got any blowback at all,
Hmm.
if you can believe, from the black community.
Okay.
Now, I'm on. I'll tell you a story here in a minute, but I've been everywhere around the country, lecturing and doing PowerPoint presentation on this. And elder people are hungry for it. Our people are they knew intuitively that that our ancestors were the authors and the heroes and the heroines of the Old Testament and the New Testament. They knew it intuitively. They just needed someone to help walk them through it in a more scholarly type way, to use scholarship to affirm what they already knew intuitively. So I really haven't had any pushback. The only pushback, and if I can call it pushback, is that I've had some in our community who would raise the question, what does it matter? That the people of the book were people of African descent, were black folks. What does it matter? That what color Jesus was. And my response is always, the truth should always matter. It matters because it's the truth. And that's number one. Number two, it matters because now when you read the holy book, you read it through a different hermeneutic. You see yourself in the story. You see your ancestors in the story. This is our story.
Mm.
And that adds a nuance, that adds a power to it. So that now, man, when I go back and read it, when I'm reading the epistles, or when I'm reading Jesus, and he's talking about the Gentiles, at one time I thought he was referring to me. When I read about Paul and he said to the Jew first and then to the Gentile, I put myself on the side of the Gentile. But when I came into this knowledge that when Jesus talked about the Gentile, he wasn't talking about me.
Mm.
When he talked about the lost sheep of the house of Israel, he's talking about me.
Mm.
That added a dimension to it didn't change the biblical text, but it sure added something to it, man, that makes it powerful.
And this is why I'm asking you right now that particular question, because in this journey, I'm sure you ran into others, and we're going to talk about the others in a moment, who are now, I would say, touching on this, not because they're looking to help liberate our people and substantiate that we're the children of Israel. They're more so delving into it by force. Why? Because they're losing control over the theological narrative. And I'm speaking of the them right now. Where now they have theologians coming out. They have apologetics coming out. They have Jesuits coming out. They also have a guy by the name of Messer that you probably ran into in the midst of your journey. He so happened to be a Messianic Jew. Have you heard of Messer?
I think I have. He's a European Jew or what?
No, he's a Christian Jew. He's by the name of Messer.
Okay. No. I don't think I have.
Yeah, because someone says turn up my volume. Let me turn it up. One moment. Let's see here. All right, I had to turn it up some here.
Okay.
Because in studying your book and going through it, because of course the book was sent to me, and many of our churches within our church and others who follow our broadcast, pastor, has purchased your book.
Okay.
We noticed there's some familiar theology out there that Messer is now trying to bring forth to not confirm that we are the children of Israel, but to pacify. The example I can give you, they're trying to make it more so, we just need to show black people that they exist in the Bible beside Jewish people. So they'll go into a story about an Ethiopian who married Moses and have us find value in the Ethiopian and not Moses. They'll go into other Hamitic people that were revered or respected. And that's enough to some degree for us to say, you know what, we as Gentiles who aren't Israelites still have value because we can find ourselves in the book as Gentiles when really these guys are just throwing stuff in the way. My thoughts for them is this, and I want to hear your perspective. If you weren't willing to tell me the truth of myself when before I knew anything, I don't want to hear anything from you now. And I'm speaking about these other people who now are coming with, I can show you something black now. Now that we're on every corner, that we are waking up the earth, the gospel is being spread, and our people realizing throughout the earth that the kingdom is for us first. Not to say the other people can't get in, because if you follow Christ, you can get in. But that changes everything. So I don't want to hear nothing about no other people coming in who claiming to be our people with some information now based on the fact that they're losing their control over us. What say you? What say you on that? Because now we have other people coming with other persuasions with an opinion on this when they said nothing, when we had no value, realizing that we had no insight at all on our history, our rich history written of in the Bible, Moses, Jeremiah, Jesus Christ, the disciples, that the ministry we call Christianity today started with black people. Right? So
yeah.
So what say you on that?
First of all, Elder, let me say this.
Yeah.
That Israel is a part of Africa. It is on the continent of Northeast Africa.
Exactly.
I mean, that's indisputable. All you have to do is look at a map. You know the landmass that was removed, that physically separated Israel from Africa, created the Suez Canal back in the 1800s. But prior to that, during Jesus' day, during biblical times, Israel was a part of Africa. So these people are people in the Bible. They are Africans. If Ethiopians are Africans, if Nigerians are African, and because their land is a part of the continent, well, if Israel is a part of the continent, that would make the Israelites African as well. But you'll never hear that. That's number one. Number two, people will always try to let me. I got so much in my head right now. Let me go back and say this: the defection of our church of young millennials, their defection is a symptom of what's happening in our church, in the black church itself. That is, the black church is an evolving, living organism. It's not just an organization, it's an organism. It started evolving in the first century, according to my Bible in the book of Acts, when the church was born. It started to grow and evolve and mature from that point. We're at a critical point right now where the church is undergoing a transition. And one of my arguments as I go throughout the country is that the transition that the church is going through, it is this emergence of this information that you've always known, Elder, and that you're leading your people in. This information is starting to well up in the church, in the black community, and people need to hear it. And I'm thinking, and I believe, that the church of the future, the black church, will not survive if the black church doesn't come back to its roots, because this is what our people are hungering for. Man, they are tired of this health wealth stuff. They are tired of this name it, claim it, this prosperity gospel. They're sick of it because we've got a large enough sample size now, going back to Reverend Ike up to now, the prosperity preachers of today. We have a large enough sample size now where our people understand that nobody is getting rich except the people that's preaching prosperity. The rest of us remain in poverty. So we got a large enough sample size to know that that's not where it is. But our people are searching, and if we don't gather around this theology, and it's not a new theology, it's the theology of the Bible, and see ourselves as a part of the biblical text, the authors and the heroes of the Old Testament and New Testament, then our church will not survive. The black church will not survive as we once knew it. Now, having said all of that, we now have a movement that's countering this welling up, this groundswell of information and knowledge. And understand, bro, that real revolution is never top down. It's always bottom up. So it's the grassroots who are collecting around this information that you share, that I've shared in my book, The Bible is Black History. Let me digress. The writing of this book, the challenge was not to have page volumes. The challenge was to winnow down this information so that it can be digestible to the average person. I was not writing this book for the academies. I wasn't writing this book for the scholars. I wrote it for the average, ordinary individual that may have no academic training, or perhaps have no theological training or no formal education beyond high school at all. They just need to have the ability to read and comprehend. And that's why the book reads so simply. That's why the book may appear to some scholars to be watered down and all of that. I don't care about that. What I wanted to do was to get this information into the minds of the grassroots, everyday, ordinary person, because that's where revolutions start. If you study revolutions around the world, in the history of the world, it never started from top down. It started from bottom up. If you look at Moses, his revolution, man, that started from the bottom. It didn't start with Pharaoh. It started with an outcast named Moses. When you look at the New Testament, the revolution that took place in the New Testament didn't start with Caesar. It started with a brother from Galilee in the peasant region of Galilee, from the town of Nazareth. A young poor man, a young poor peasant, sparked that revolution that we see in the New Testament. All revolutions start with grassroots. So we have this groundswell of information And I thank God in some respects for the internet and for social media. We have a groundswell, man. People getting this knowledge, and the people who, in whose best interest they are watching, they see what's happening. And so, yeah, man, they're going to interject their counter narrative to try to say, okay, don't take this thing too far. There are some black people in the Bible. We got Solomon, we got Nimrod, we got Queen of Sheba, we got the Ethiopian eunuch, we got the Syro-Phoenician woman. We got so y'all just calm down. We will acknowledge that there are black people in the Bible. My argument is all of them are black. They're all African.
Hold up now. Hey, Pastor, I'm with you. But there's one in particular who isn't. And so I'm going to, he was also in that African area, but we're going to talk about that in a moment. We have about 1 more hour. We're going to bring in some phone calls. But before that, Doc, what I want to do is we're going to go into not just what the black opposition is or hasn't been. I thank the Most High that most people are, our people are, after being tired of the prosperity movement, is welcoming this awakening with open arms and realizing that we black people who have suffered are the children of Israel according to the Bible. But we're going to come back with, I'm going to ask you, what has been any opposition, if any, from the other side? Okay, we're going to talk about that in a moment. I just want to bring out a commercial. I need y'all to hit that like button, and we're going to come right back. We have Dr. Theron D. Williams. That's right, Theron D. Williams, the author of, let me get it here. The author of is right before you on your screen. The Bible is Black History. We'll be right back. Just put it on mute, and we'll be right back, sir.
Okay.
Oh, that's why.
The elders of the Gathering of Christ Church would like to invite you to enroll in the new upcoming Hebrew and Bible Academy, which begins December 23rd. The Academy is a 3-month online course which includes 12 live biblical lessons taught by the elders every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We deliver weekly analyzed news with Elder Rawchaa and with commentary on how it relates to Bible prophecy. Elder Rawchaa insightfully teaches each online Bible lesson in a personal classroom setting to enrich your learning experience. Additionally, Elder Lawya provides an introduction to the original Hebrew language, including grammar and conversational Hebrew. For new and returning students, now is a great time to enroll, as we are happy to announce that we've added never-before-taught lessons on Daniel 9, the prophecy of the final 7 years, the battle of Armageddon, and the 1,000-year reign. This intensive course has been meticulously customized and enriched with PDF booklets and downloadable videos, automatically emailed to you after every live lesson. Enroll today at historytimes.org or email us at gatheringas1@aol.com. We look forward to seeing you there.
Alrighty. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Yes. We are back. We're back with Dr. Theron D. Williams, the author of The Bible is Black History. You can call in 515-605-9327. Okay, let me bring the doctor back on. Are you with me, sir?
I'm with you.
Okay, let's jump right in. Now, Christ broke down this precept in Revelation, and I don't want to get too controversial, needing this channel that we've worked so hard to preserve. Christ said in Revelation 2:9, I know thy works, thy tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I also know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Come to find out, there's some people out there who wanted Christ dead, who hate his guts till this day. To some degree, doctor, and it's really about Christ. This awakening is his prophecy. He said that eventually that our people would run into the wilderness after being destroyed by the Romans, and I'm sure you picked it up on your book, and that we would be scattered and enslaved throughout all nations until his return. And that if we were to follow his path, it would lead us back to our original promise, not an African promise, but what? A Shemite, an Israelite promise to our father Jacob. So the question is not whether or not who are the Jews according to the Bible, because it's clear. The question I have is, what say you about, is there any opposition from the other side? Because if we point out who the Israelites are, it highlights those who are claiming to be Israelites. So how are you dealing with that? How are you walking that particular tightrope? And I'm sure you are.
Well, I mean, first of all, we have to determine what these words are: Hebrew, Jew, Israelite, Israeli, Shemite. They are all not synonymous. To refer to someone as a Jew, first of all, Jewishness is not a race. Jewishness is a religion.
Okay.
The race, I argue, is Hebrew. That denotes, in my opinion, based upon my research, that denotes their race. So that you can be a Jew and be any color, just embrace Judaism.
Yes.
In fact, men who don't embrace Judaism, if your mother or your grandmother embraced Judaism, according to their tradition, that makes you a Jew, not by race, because Jew is not a race, but by religion.
Okay.
So now you have European Jews who were never in Israel, never in the history of the European race have they ever been in Israel en masse as a people. They were in Europe in the early 20th century with the height of the anti-Semitic issues that they were experiencing in Europe. It is at that time they migrated all over the world, particularly to the United States and to Israel. When they got to Israel in the early 20th century, the Ottoman Empire, the Turks were there because they had reigned over the world, particularly that part of the world, for several hundred years, and they were Islamic. They were Islam. So when they got, in the early 20th century, when they got to Israel, it was predominantly Muslim. There were 750,000 Muslims there when the first Europeans began to migrate into Israel. The Muslims who were there resisted, didn't want them in, but they continued to migrate, and they migrated to Israel so much, and there were so many of them, that after World War II, when the Ottoman Empire had collapsed and then the British Empire had taken over colonial rule of Israel, after World War II, the British didn't want control over Israel, so they turned it over to the United Nations. The United Nations in 1948 said, okay, part of this land will be for Islamic people, and the other part will be for European Jewish people. And so that's the tension we have to this day. These two peoples are encroaching upon each other's designated space. But that's how they got to Israel. And they have convinced the whole world that they've been in Israel since Abraham. And that's just not true. They were in Europe.
Okay.
You know, in 70 AD, at the collapse of Israel,
But
under
okay, I'm gonna let you
Caesar.
get this point out. But I wanted to ask, since you wrote this book, have you received any pushback from those who are Israelis, or those who are really, because believe it or not, they're actually controlling modern day Christendom as far as the Christian church. The Christian church have totally been co-opted, in which the mainstream churches must support Israel, and that's their choice if they would like to do so. But I'm asking you, since this resolve and awakening on your side, beginning with helping our youth deal with this onslaught and attack against the Bible, have you received any resistance against from that side?
I've received email, and, for people who are European Jews who have read the book and had a real problem with it. Some of them I respond to, and some of them I don't. Because, Elder, I really could care less what they think of us as a people, what they think of this research, and what they think about what I think who the original Jewish people are. I could care less. But when I do respond, I refer them to their own geneticists.
Okay.
Because one of the things, because see, when you first of all academically debunk the notion that they were always in Israel, when that doesn't hold water historically, now they have gone genetics. They say, oh, well, our genetic pool goes back to Israel. And then when you scrutinize that, they say, well, it may not be Israel, but it definitely goes back to the Levant. And well, as you know, Elder, the Levant not only comprises of Israel, but it comprises of Iran, Iraq, Arabia, Afghanistan. All of that is part of the Levant. So if your genetic pool traces back to the Levant, doesn't mean that you are necessarily from Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So now they have gone to DNA and genetics to say our genetic pool is proof that we are indigenous to the land of Israel. Well, you've got their own scholars. Martin Richards is one of the scholars, and Harry Oster. Both of those guys conducted studies. In fact, it was called A Legacy, a Genetic History of the Jewish People. Mm-hmm. And in that study, they studied Ashkenazi Jews. And the DNA study concluded that the Ashkenazi Jews did not emerge from Israel, but their DNA traces back to Europe. So now you don't have any credible historical data to prove that they were indigenous to Israel. You don't have any biblical data to prove that the European Jew was indigenous to Israel. They tried to go with DNA. Now that has been debunked. They don't have a leg to stand on. They are not indigenous to the land of Israel.
See, and I'm glad you went there. We have, for those who've just come on, we have Dr. Theron D. Williams of Mount Carmel Baptist, and he realized through his research that the blacks in America, through his research, for the time the Most High have awakened him, that we are in fact the children of Israel, and that the Bible is a black man's or a black people's book. I wanted to put that out there for you. 515-605-9327. There's a few things I wanted to touch on going back with you, Doc, if you don't mind. Okay, because I know what it is to be, I would say, hit with that reality that, hold up, have they lied to me all my life? And not only that, this lie must be so articulated, so put together, this conspiracy, that they must lie on every level, understanding that there's an inherent spirit within us seeking truth. And I'm going here, sir, is because going back to your point of opposition, right? And I'm going to throw this out there just so that we can have a discussion even after this, you and I, and so that the listeners can understand also where the others have ran interference, right? And only going to take me 1 minute, Doctor, real quick, because we're building, right?
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
They would rather us look at Ashkenazi or Khazariah. They would rather. Because the information is so askewed that they can get away through the cloud that comes with the migration that was in that area for a century before it actually happened, with Alexander the Greek's conquering and all these other things, which led to Khazariah being a multicultural area that they could use for ambiguity, to the degree where they would rather you think that they are Japheth. Check this out, Doc. This is where they don't want us to go. They don't want us to go because Khazariah, okay, that happened between the 8th and 11th century, more so modern time history, right? When the Muslims were up on the rise and all those things. But a lot of history happened before that. Where they don't want us to go is to Christ. See, Christ is that way. He's the truth. He's always been the light. And he's always shined on their darkness. This is why these people wanted him dead. So I say, you know what? I'm not even going to point to the history they're trying to point us to. Let's go to Christ's time, right? Right before Christ's time, there was a people called the Idumeans who was in league with Julius Caesar around 37 BC, called the Hasmonean dynasty. Come to find out, these particular people were named Idumeans because these Idumeans were what you would call north of the Judean kingdom. Not north, but at the base of the Judean kingdom, south of the Judean kingdom, where Esau made a little city of what you would call conspirators, like Psalms 83 says, to one day take the northern kingdom or to destroy the northern kingdom. So out of these Idumeans, and this is where I'm going at, out of these Idumeans, they battled and conspired against us all the way up until the Grecian Empire, where, if you know about John Hyrcanus and the Maccabees, there was a great conversion that we read of in the Josephus, where a large number of Edomites were converted into Judaism. Now, this is way before there was any such time as Khazariah.
Yep.
So now, by the time Christ came on the scene, you had Edomites that had nothing to do with Khazarian, white people in rule as Pharisees, and they set up under Antipater Herod the Great, or the governor, which was a Greek or an Edomite, to be the first foreign Jew over our people during the time of Christ's birth. Right? So they don't want us to go there because there's no ambiguity finding who they are or figuring out who's really in control. Now, one other thing I wanted to pull out. When you go into the Bible, it points us to the book of Jasher. The book of Jasher points us to Esau's grandson Zepho, who ran into Kittim or Europe and into Italy and set up a stronghold. And they began to take down Europeans, which were Asians at that time, in ancient times, the same way they took down the North American Indians in our modern time, in our present time, so that they can hide themselves as any other people than the children of Edom, our arch rival from birth. Now
Well, let me
come on,
jump in.
come on,
and say a word about that the Hasmoneans.
come on.
I take issue with the Hasmoneans. They were people of color. I don't have any research to indicate that they would be any other race than the race of the indigenous people of the Bible.
I have it.
Yeah.
I have it, and I'm going to give it to you.
Okay. My contention is
Okay.
my argument is that the European Jews that we have now are the descendants of Japhet.
Oh, I know. I know. We have your book.
Yeah, and they were scattered all over what we know today as Israel. I don't think that the Pharisees were white people,
Okay.
European people.
Okay.
I believe that they were the Hebrew ruling class. They were the elite class in Hebrew, and they were in cahoots with the Roman Empire because the Roman Empire was taxing Judah and Israel, particularly Galilee, taxing them into abject poverty. And you had Pontius Pilate, who was the king of Judah. He was ruling Judah, but he was the puppet of the Roman Empire. And then you had the Jewish ruling class that consisted of the scribes, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the priesthood. All of these, according to my research, all of these are black folks. You know, I mean, they were sucking up to Caesar and exploiting the grassroots people, taxing them into abject poverty.
Well, this is
and Paul.
No, go ahead.
Paul was a Pharisee.
Well,
and we know Paul was a.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying though. I'm not saying that the Pharisees weren't black. See, it's not being just left or right with this. And I'm saying that is because when you look at the history, there's history of Edomites conquering even from the time of Antiochus Epiphanes. And I can prove that these are white people, but I digress. We'll talk about that later. What I would like to talk about here is the fact that in the Jewish Targum, are you familiar with the Jewish Targum?
The Jewish, what now?
Targum, Targum.
Yes.
Okay. Under the Jewish Targum and also in the Talmud, it reads, and not only that, it's proven that they're right, that the Edomites, core, fundamental, founded place is Rome. And that even the Hebrew breaks them down. When you look at the Hebrew, when it breaks down to the number 6, it leads in the Targum. The Jewish people today will tell you in the Targum and in the Talmud that the Romans are Edomites according to history. Now what I'm going to do, sir, is I'm going to compile the information I have and give it to you so you can deal with the information you have and we'll build together. Okay? And then afterwards, we'll sit down together and we'll discuss this. And I'm going to tell you why. Christ says that a nation divided against itself cannot stand. And there has been much controversy within the awakening itself, Doctor, amongst us blacks who know we're Hebrews. Who is Esau? That sworn enemy who would one day destroy his brother. Did he just disappear off the earth? No, he didn't. In my class, the Hebrew and Bible Academy, we just taught who's Esau. And we've followed his history from Mount Seir all the way here to America. Verified history that cannot be disputed. And how part of Esau's spirit is to become a chameleon and hide himself amongst the nations and make us believe he's someone he's not. Okay? And see, that's what I've studied. Now, this is what now we're going to digress, and what I'll do is we'll talk offline, and I'm going to send you the information I have, and I'm sure you'll do some great work with it. Let me ask you this, sir. You mentioned it was some serious points that came out earlier, sir. You said that every great movement or revolution started from the bottom up. I made sure I wrote down some serious points you had there, right? That the black church is in a transformation, right? And some would say, Dr. Williams, that the black church was co-opted a long time ago. To show the strength of the black church, there will be no such thing as civil rights, and if it wasn't for the black church. There will be no such thing as the whole world looking at our people uniting in America against injustice, to where other nations can come over here, including the LGBT movement and others, wouldn't have a leg to stand on when it comes to civil rights if it wasn't the black church standing in solidarity against the power. To show you, they always understood, I would say, the political power within the black church alone. Now, through that is what I have to ask you. After that civil rights movement, now, I'm not old enough to know. I know my mother and father tell me about this, but I'm sure you went through this. That I believe what we're learning now, that we're the people of the Bible, would have been taught a long time ago if the church wasn't co-opted a long time ago during or after the civil rights movement. I believe our people were uniting and finding themselves and realizing that we were the people of the Bible at that time. But a co-op happened. Now, I want you to answer to that, because you were there during that civil rights time. And I think this.
Yeah, I was a kid, man. I'm not as old as you think I am.
Okay,
I was a kid.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. Well, let me ask you this then. You're probably my age then. It's like this, sir. Okay, maybe you just have that old soul. You remind me of my pastor, Little, here in Philadelphia when I grew up. But let me ask you this. It seems like that civil rights movement was co-opted, right? That meant a better life for our children, a better spiritual place for our children, so that we can protect ourselves from the enemy and also raise them in the righteousness and morality of our forefathers. But it seems now that not only has the church turned into the prosperity movement, they have welcomed morality to the degree in which the black church has been taken over by the LGBT gay movement. Now, I'm sure I'm straddling the fence right now, but what say you about, now we understand all of our people, we struggle with sin and we are to help our people out of sin. That's one thing. But it's another thing to be totally taken over by a political group, who is publicly against the moral standings of the Bible. What say you on that, if you want to speak about that at all?
Yeah, well, first of all, going back to the civil rights movement, and you talked about the civil rights movement was co-opted, the black church has been co-opted, and proof of its co-option is that this information that we're sharing today in 2019 would have been shared back in the 60s. Here is my explanation. The hermeneutic through which the Bible has been understood is a white Euro hermeneutic. And a hermeneutic is a means and method of interpretation. And we established early on in our conversation that Israel is connected to Africa, which makes Israel a part of Africa. And Africa, which makes the Bible African literature. Now, if I'm to understand African literature, then I need to understand it through an African hermeneutic. I need to understand the mindset of that African who wrote it if I'm going to get a clear understanding of what the Bible means. But what has happened to us is that we have taken a Euro hermeneutic to try to interpret an African book, an African literature, is what we've tried to do.
Okay.
Now, Euro hermeneutic is important if I'm reading Homer, if I'm reading Shakespeare, if I'm reading the Iliad or the Odyssey, that rich European literature. I want a Euro hermeneutic. But if I'm reading the book of Isaiah, if I'm reading Jeremiah, if I'm reading the Gospels, I'm going to need an Afro hermeneutic. So what has happened is that this Euro hermeneutic has subtly been imposed upon the Bible, that even the most scholarly of us who read the Bible don't understand that we're reading it from a European hermeneutic. It has taken time for that Euro hermeneutic to be peeled away from the sacred biblical text, so that back in the 60s, the brothers back there, they knew something was wrong, because you had James Cone writing back there. Well, James Cone, not really in the 60s. James Cone was in the late 60s, early 70s, and part of the 80s. But you had emerging theologians who understood this, and they had started dealing with this. And so for us to suggest that it was some sinister plan of black preachers to team up with the white male supremacy system to co-opt the Bible to manipulate black people, I think that's treading on thin ice. That's a slippery slope. I don't want to think that Jesse Jackson and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Ralph Abernathy and that crowd of clergy, J.H. Jackson and Charles Adams and those guys, who are culturally sensitive and aware of what's going on, I hate to think that they were so weak-minded that they were co-opted by white male supremacy to use the Bible to oppress our people. That's number one. Number two.
Oh, I don't think they were co-opted. I don't think they were co-opted.
Well, I mean, you said the church, the black church had been co-opted.
Yeah.
And you can't co-opt the black church unless you get to the black leaders.
Yeah, but definitely, real quick, I wanted to correct one thing. The Hasmonean dynasty were the Maccabees. They were black. I wanted to correct that. I was talking talking about the Herodians, the Edomites, the Idumeans, who were converted during the time of Hyrcanus, where you had a bunch of Edomites, white people who were converted. But I wanted to drop that. I'm not saying that. I believe that the civil rights leaders were well intended. I believe that these men had a passion and belief of God and love for their people. I'm talking about what happened subsequent to that, where other people who came in who are against Christ and held hands with our people during a transformation, during a time of awakening, that thing began to turn for the worse, leading to what we have now.
Yeah, well, I think, and even with that, even with that, Elder, the church post-civil rights movement, we did have Reverend Ike. We did have other health, wealth, name it, claim it, prosperity preachers and all that. And you had that in the New Testament. The New Testament church had people like that. So you're going to always have somebody who's trying to exploit good people for their own selfish gain. That's nothing new.
Okay.
And we look at the black church, and we look at the black church as if this stuff that we're dealing with now, as far as greed, is a new phenomenon, and it's not. It has always been there. In fact, Paul warns against it. It was so widespread during the early church that Paul wrote to Timothy and said, if somebody wants to be an elder, one of the criterion is that he has to be free from the love of money. We can't have greedy, money-loving clergy people leading God's people. So that indicates that there was an issue with that earlier on in the New Testament. So to have prosperity preachers and that type of thing, going on right now is nothing new.
Okay.
But post-civil rights, the church has done tremendous things for our community. Did you not know that the black church was the #1 private employer of black people in the nation? Did you not know that the black church was by far the #1 private employer of educated black men? You know, did you not know that the black church combined together owns more land and more property than any other black institution in the United States? We feed, if the black church came together, if we looked at all of our programs together, we feed tens of thousands of black hungry people every day. We send thousands of black students to HBCUs every year. You know, the church, if you shut down the black church, you cripple the black community. So I don't have a lot of bad things to say about the black church. We are not without fault. We could do much better, and we should do much better. And again, we are in transition, and I think the information that you and I are discussing today will be the next rung in the evolutionary process of the black church. So I don't have, I have nothing but praise, you know, for the black church, man. I mean, because I know what the black church has meant to me and a whole lot of other individuals.
And let me say something, Dr. Theron. Listen, Dr. Williams. All right. I know the power of the black church. I mean, I have pastors on either side of my mother and father's family. My grandfather was a pastor up until the age of 100. He was blind before he passed and read the Bible in Braille and knew we were the children of God. My mother broke it down to me later. I know the power that's within the church. You understand? Without question. And that's why it's upon us to take the responsibility now that's placed upon us in these times, right? And this is what I'm saying. There's no doubt that our church, the black church, has compromised. Not all.
Oh yeah.
But there's a certain level of compromising that, you know, that our God isn't pleased with. We're using grace to teach sin in the black church. Right? So and
I get that.
Listen, and I don't separate myself. Listen, last I checked, I'm a black man in a black church. I teach all nations. Okay, you understand? So I'm not separating myself. It's us. It's we. Right? So now,
I get it. I get it.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, sir. No, go ahead. Say your point, because I'm going to get into something that's going to. I wish we had more time, but say your point real quick.
Well, the last point you mentioned was the LGBT agenda and how it's slithering its way into the church.
Yeah.
I'm assuming with a political agenda to topple our church, to topple the black church. And we have gay people in our church. I mean, and the black church has always had gay people. You know, I mean, you are an elder of the gathering of Christ Church. There's some gay people in the gathering, brother. You know, there are gay people, and there will always be gay people.
Yeah, there's sinners. There's sinners everywhere. But we're not
That's
going
right,
to.
brother.
But
And
we're not going to allow. We're not going to allow a group of sinners, whatever their sin may be, take president and
yeah,
begin to push a political agenda in our church.
yeah. Oh no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to have any group build any political agenda in our church.
Okay.
Not any. I mean, not just LGBT. I mean, if you
Yeah.
want to talk about Black Lives Matter, if you want to
Yeah.
talk about other groups that want to come in and use the church as a platform to propagate their political agenda, we don't do that. Not for any political group,
So
not just the LGBT community.
let me ask you this, and I don't mean to digress because it's going in somewhere else, and I want to reel it back in. We're all over the place, and that's fine because I love talking about this, discussing the plight of our people. If there was a known pedophile that you knew that was a pedophile in your church, Doc, would you have that pedophile over your choir?
If I knew of a pedophile in my church, brother, I'm the state star witness. He's going to jail, and I'm going to be a witness for the state. No.
Okay. All right. So this is what I'm saying, though. Of course, I would be blind to believe that there aren't people in the church struggling with inordinate affections and all that. That's dealing. We have people who come to the church who was baptized, who were gay and all that, and still struggle with those temptations. But still, it's not being excused. These things are worked upon, and you're not going to put someone in a position of authority that can harm others, knowing they're living that lifestyle. Fighting that lifestyle is one thing, and struggling with that lifestyle is what an elder's position is to help them transition through it. It's not to put them in an authoritative, comely position to actually execute their emotions and their weakness on our congregations. Right?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't, Elder, disqualify someone from leadership because they struggle with that issue. I mean, this is my personal.
Not struggle.
Opinion.
If they're in a relationship with another man or another woman, would you have them in position in your church?
As of now, I don't have any like that in position at my church. I've never been confronted with it.
Okay, good.
I've never projected to think about it.
Okay.
As we have 3,500 people at our church.
Good.
And I don't know of any who are in an open gay or lesbian relationship.
Okay.
Now, if I found that out, how would I respond? Bro, I've not thought about it.
Okay. All right.
I've not thought about it. Yeah.
All right. Just as long as we understand, because we're not pointing out no individual and saying one sin is worse than the other, but you have to be blind not to see what's going on in our churches right now concerning that particular scenario, right?
Well, I mean, some churches, not all. I mean,
Okay.
if you came to Mount Carmel Church in Indianapolis,
I'm coming.
you wouldn't see that.
I'm coming.
If you came, you wouldn't see that. Uh-huh.
I'm coming. All right. Now, on another point, before we open up the phone calls, I'm going to ask you this because I know others are chopping at the bit to ask you questions. 515-605-9327, right? In the Wisdom of Solomon, the 14th chapter, it talks about a fake visage, someone putting up a fake face instead of our Lord and Savior.
And the what now? Now, where's this?
The Wisdom of Solomon in the Apocrypha, the 14th chapter, Pastor Theron.
Okay.
It speaks of a deception on the world where an untimely, a king would rise with a son and promote this fake face over the earth as God, which is Cesar Borgia and the Pope. It was prophesied in Wisdom of Solomon 14. It says, not only will they put up a fake face and it will be an occasion to deceive the whole world, that with it will come wicked rites and rituals, ceremonies and sacrifices that would lead to sin running rampant throughout the earth. Now, it's one thing to say that the Jews are black, and now we're taking ownership of our book, understanding that the people out there aren't protecting it anyway. We're the people, and it's upon us to protect it and to follow the laws within it. Some might ask you, now that you realize you're an Israelite and God gave us holy days, how are you adjusting with knowing that the holy days that were given to us by the Gentiles, like Christmas, Easter, Sunday worship, was and is pagan and has nothing to do with the God of the Bible? How is that adjustment going?
Well, in observation of these holidays that normally the Christian church celebrate, and I understand that they are pagan. But one of the things that we do for Christmas is not so much celebrate the Christmas season as it is traditionally celebrated here in America, but we focus on the birth of the Savior. That becomes what's significant for us during that season. We know Jesus was probably not born in the winter. We understand that. But Christmas, as we celebrate it here in America, has been set aside on the calendar, to do whatever it is that they thought Christmas would do. We take it and we sanctify it. And we use that as an opportunity to teach about the advent of our Lord Jesus Christ. I understand that Easter is a very pagan holiday in origin.
Yeah, it
very
is.
Pagan. And you see some of the paganistic symbols and practices with the Easter egg and the Easter bunny and all of this type of stuff. We see some of the vestiges of paganism in that. But we sanctify that and we celebrate.
You say you
the
sanctify
resurrection
that.
of our Lord.
Are you saying you cleansing?
Oh, yeah.
You're cleansing what's wicked and evil.
Yeah, and celebrating the essence of it.
Oh, the essence.
Not so much. Yeah, we celebrate the essence of it. Christ was born. We do celebrate his advent.
Okay.
Christ was resurrected. We do celebrate his resurrection.
Okay.
With regard as Sabbath days and worship days, we try to follow the New Testament, man. We follow Pauline, his writings, and how Paul said things should go, and so that's how we do it.
Okay. All right. So this is what,
Yeah.
and you know what, why I brought this around, and we're going to have conversations on the outside of this, is because the whole thing is us finding out that it's a black book was one thing. Now the responsibility of these black chosen people to follow that God that put us under the curse is a whole nother ball of wax now. Because why? We have a lot of our youth that are not just leaving the church because the Bible is being stomped upon or atheism is rising, but you have a lot of people that are reading this Bible realizing that the churches are actually not following the Bible. That they see the law says one thing, and the pastors are teaching those in the church to do another, and upholding a known lie that they know isn't truth. So eventually they're going to say, either we're going to be all the way with the Most High in His truth, regardless of our color, or we're not. Either if God put us in captivity for breaking His law, isn't it our responsibility as the children of God to get right what our fathers broke? So,
Yeah.
you understand? So, the color thing is really the entry or the milk of this, Pastor. But overall, we have to put up, okay? We have to put up or step back, because it's now the Lord saying, you opened up Pandora's box now. You know you're Israel. You know you're in captivity because of your forefathers broke the law. You know that the pagans taught you to be pagan. You know that the Bible doesn't excuse sin. Come back to me all the way, and don't celebrate these holidays the Gentiles are using to keep you under oppression. Come back to my high holy days. You can respect anything you want, but you're going to do what I say. Thus saith the Lord God. What say you?
Well, I think. Hold on 1 second, Elder.
Okay. 515-605-9327.
I think that I don't want to get hung up on what I think is superficial. You know, I really do. I think celebrating days, celebrating holidays, and I really do think that's getting hung up on that is superficial.
Okay.
I think what's important is that we bring our people back to a love ethic.
True.
That we learn how to love God, that we recognize who we are as God's people, and we love our God, and we love each other.
Okay.
Elder, none of us is going to be perfect. I'm a pastor of a church, and I have made mistakes. I have sinned. You are the elder of a congregation. You've made mistakes. You've sinned. So if sinlessness is what's going to get us out of this predicament that we have fallen into, then we're never going to get out. It's only going to be the grace of God. And I think what's important is for us to recognize who we are as God's people and repent for having strayed away from God. And what God wants from us more than anything is for us to love Him and to love each other.
That's true.
You know, if we can get that, you know, I think we're on our way.
That's true. That's true. The love part, but you know,
yeah.
You know what? The whole thing is this, right? The Most High has us where He has us, and the journey isn't over. So, you know, I'm not going to see you any different than a brother who's still like myself in transitioning towards the kingdom of heaven. And as we come closer to this, we're going to shed off, you know, some of the teachings that happen in our servitude and cleave fully to the Lord our God. I have full faith in that, Pastor. I have a brother who would like to ask you a question, and then after that, we're gonna open up some phone calls, because this is I love the phone call part. We just have our people randomly here. We're on YouTube. And Pastor, guess what? We got 1,500 people right here. 1,540 people listening right now online through YouTube. And they're loving the discussion. And I like to thank you for coming on before we bring in these phone calls. I want to thank you, sir. And you know what? I'm behind you. I'm cheering you on through all the way towards the kingdom 100% for standing against adversity and teaching what you do know, as to be, teaching what you know is right, and shepherding our people and giving them the light that we are the children of Israel. Okay. And so I don't want to take away from that.
Man. I do appreciate your work. I really do.
All praises be to the Most High.
Your knowledge base is phenomenal, man. And, I do want to encourage you to continue your work. Is really important.
Thank you, brother. Hey, you doing it too, sir. You understand? And we're going to build together. I'm going to call you on the outside of this. You have my word on that. We're going to talk. All right. We have Elder Gabar. He's on. He want to ask you a question. And of course, I got to bring in our weekly elder Lawya. And then after that, boom, we're going to open up these phone calls and talk to the world. Guess what? Dr. Theron D. Williams found out that he was a child of Israel according to the Bible, that the Bible is a black man's book. He wrote a book about it, and he's helping our people through these perils with giving our children the knowledge of themselves, and that must be championed, and we must back that. When we see a light turned on in these Christian churches, guess what? We must back them. It's enough ridicule and pointing to what's wrong, but guess what? This brother is standing against adversity and teaching our people that we are the children of God. And you know what? That is a great step. Talk to us, Gabar.
Okay. How we doing, Dr. Williams? This is
I'm doing good, my brother. How are you?
Okay. So just, I'm co-hosting today with Elder Rawchaa. Just to kind of introduce myself, I'm I would, the world would probably call me an Afro-Latino, Dominican male. I'm 47 years old. I've been with this church here since its conception. But I began to be aware of my Hebrew roots as a Latino man and indigenous to this side of the world in my early 20s. And to kind of give you a background on myself, I was hearing you talk with the elder in regards of, what matters, in regards of the holidays and the Sabbath and things of that nature, and that God is really looking for us to how we treat each other. And you have no arguments with me. And you mentioned the Pauline understanding of the scripture. And what I want you to maybe perhaps, and is more not necessarily a question, but more an invitation. I have done a lesson several times titled "The Misunderstanding of Paul's Writings," and what I'm asking you for you to reconsider, to look at the possibility, because you mentioned earlier that the hermeneutics that we've been looking at the Bible from the European perspective, and we have to kind of look at the Bible from indigenous Northeast African perspective, and I agree with you. Is it possible too that not only we have to look at the history of the people, but we also have to look at the biblical writings of Paul, not from a European perspective or European hermeneutics, but look at Paul as a first century Jew. And if you look at him from a first century Jew perspective, and because I grew up as a Pentecostal, my father was a Pentecostal minister. My mother still is a Christian, woman. She goes to the church every Sunday morning. So I'm familiar with both sides of the understanding. And what I'm asking you for you to look at two things. Look at the history of the doctrine called replacement theology. I also want you to look at the history of the Pauline doctrine. And basically, if you like, I should send you some of the material that I have gathered, is that there was a thought very early on to separate the Gentiles from the Jews. When Christianity began to become popular in Europe, and when Constantine and those folks began to realize the popularity of Christianity, which for almost 200 years, Christians was more like an African in Egypt and in the Middle East, and then it began to kind of catch some things in Europe. They began to manipulate Paul's writings to give the impression as he was against the law. So I would like to maybe share the opportunity, maybe off scene, for you to maybe take a relook of Paul's writings, because I know, what most pastors go to, Colossians 2:16. You should relook at that scripture. The Galatians, you should relook at that scripture. Romans, 1, 2, and 3. If you could just maybe put yourself in the eye of a first century Jew and the lingo that he was using, and you understand Hebrew culture, it will open your eyes to a different perspective. And all I'm saying is, it's not necessarily a question, but maybe an invitation for you to say, okay, maybe perhaps that's also part of the deception. Looking at Paul's writing and separating him from Christ. Because when you look at Christ's mission, what was his mission? I want to end with this. He was a reformer. He was not against the law. He was against the tradition of the elders that were implementing, that would be implemented by the Pharisees, and they were putting these yokes and these of traditions upon the people, and he was liberating the people from that. So I just wanted to maybe maybe this has to be another part 2 of this conversation and things of that nature, for you to maybe look at Paul's writing from the perspective of a first century Jew, not from modern theologian study. So I just wanted to will you be talk to you about that? Go ahead.
Well, with regard to Paul, going to be difficult to understand Pauline writing if you don't understand Paul against the backdrop of his eschatological beliefs. Paul, along with the other New Testament writers, all of the apostles and the early church, really believed that Jesus would return in their lifetime. I mean, they were looking for Jesus like week after next. So Pauline's writing was written against that backdrop. And a lot of the things that Paul wrote about is contextual. He talked about widows and told them that you don't need to remarry. And that doesn't mean that Paul had something against marriage. But he told these widows, you don't need to get remarried. And the reason he said that is because there was, in his mind, there was too much work to be done with regard to evangelism and winning souls to Christ, because Christ is coming back next month. So you don't want to waste time. And he said to slaves, honor your master and submit to your master and that type of thing. Not because Paul was he was sanctioning slavery, but what Paul was saying, why pit yourself against your master and suffer all of this hell you're going to catch from your master when Jesus Christ will be back next year? Just hold on. Christ is coming back. So if you understand Paul against his eschatological understanding, then that sheds a different light on how we appreciate Paul.
No, I agree with you. But what I'm saying is, I know the Paul doctrine and what he was teaching could be a show in itself. But what I'm saying is, like for instance, and maybe this is a discussion we may have to have behind closed doors, like that scripture about slavery, right? When Paul was saying that servants obey your masters. From my studies, from this church, he wasn't talking about slaves and masters as we see it. He was referring to the servants of the church obeying the elders of the church. So I just wanted to for you to maybe just consider to open the possibilities, to just hear us out, maybe in another time in private quarters, that Paul's writings is, enormously misunderstood.
Okay.
And I just want to just to maybe open the possibility that we could maybe learn from each other that what Paul was talking about, when people are teaching about in that whole slavery situation, has nothing to do with slavery. But because the word slave or servant is attached to, especially with African and Latino and the Native Americans with that negativity, we attach that. But the, Greek, Koine Greek, which is attached to ancient Hebrew, words in context matter, and it could be used in several different, frames. So I just wanted to just, maybe we could share this conversation in private and maybe continue this conversation. I just wanted to just open that possibility for you to be, maybe to look at that from a different perspective.
Yeah, and I wanted to say real quick, for brothers and sisters that are out there with our Hebrew and Bible Academy, we'll be going into that this Sunday with the Christianity doctrine, because the whole thing is Christ is the way. And you had the Gentiles coming in trying to run interference to try to misrepresent Paul's teachings as if Paul taught something different. All right? No, Christ is the way. See, people try to run to Paul because why? Christ made it clear. I think not that I've come to destroy the law or the prophets. I come not to destroy, but to fulfill. Christ died on the cross, not Paul. And Paul never wrote against Christ's teachings.
Never.
It's just a misconception how they're, through the modern day theology of replacement theology, to try to replace us like they've always done and say it doesn't matter. But I digress. If you want to be in the Hebrew and Bible Academy and get into this Christianity teaching as far as the true Christianity, what it was before Constantine came on the scene, send an email to gatheringasone@aol.com, because I believe that's the ministry Christ said must be taught throughout the four corners of the earth, then the end shall come. Not the heathenistic Roman Catholic deception that have co-ops and destroyed churches throughout the earth. that's everywhere, but yet Christ haven't returned, because that's not the gospel. But guess what? Based on this book and based on the awakening of our people all over the earth, that gospel will soon finish what Christ started throughout the earth. That the children of Israel are scattered throughout the earth, and the awakening is here. What book? I'm talking about, first and foremost, the King James Version Bible. 515-605-9327. If you want to be a part of this academy and figure out, we're going to go into Paul's writings this weekend and break down the misconception of Paul. That will be the narrative for this Sunday, okay? Now, send an email to gatheringas1@aol.com, gatheringas1@aol.com, or go to historytimes.org or gatheringofchrist.org and become a part of this academy. We open up the book, we throw out philosophy, we just break down the book and give it to you raw, like it was intended, outside of philosophy. We have Dr. Theron D. Williams, the author of the book, and we have the book in front of you, and you can support the brother's book, of course. The book here, one moment, let me make sure everyone see it. The Bible is Black history. Okay, it's just a tool. It's a tool he used to help our brothers understand that it's a lie out there. People touting that the Bible is a white man's book. Just the idea of that is ludicrous. And you can support his book, The Bible is Black History. And guess what? It is. Christ, it tell you in Revelations, the first chapter, Christ is a black man like burnished brass. And guess what? He have a white woolly bush, white hair. And Daniel 7:9 tells us God is on the throne, a black man with a white bush. Okay? A black man. And guess what? Adam was made in his image. And like Dr. Theron D. Williams stated, the Bible is Black history. Come on in. We're going to open up these calls. And then I hope you're ready to answer some questions, Doctor. And we're going to try to be respectful of the time. So make sure you limit your questions or comments to 1 minute per caller. We're going to try to make sure we're not giving dissertations here, okay? We're going to start off with Stacy, who has a question in 318 area code. Then right after that, we have Travis with a comment. I hope it's a short one and a question. Let's go. Stacy.
This is she.
Blessings, Stacy. You're live with the Gathering of Christ Church and Dr. Theron D. Williams. Time's yours.
Okay, I just want to what he spoke on in reference to Hebrew. I just figured that Hebrew was just the language, but from what he is saying, that it's actually a nation.
No, Hebrew is a language. Yeah, it's a language.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it is a language.
Yeah,
Right?
it is a language. Esau, he spoke Hebrew.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different race.
Yeah.
You had the Midianites.
Okay.
They spoke Hebrew.
Mm-hmm.
Many children of Abraham. Abraham had many children speaking
Moab,
Hebrew.
Ammon, yep.
But the bloodline, in particular, what he was saying was the bloodline that comes through Israel is what he was saying in particular. That's a race.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Okay.
that's my question. Okay.
Okay. All
Thank you,
right.
sister, for your
Thank
call.
you.
Shalom.
Thank you. Shalom. Okay, yeah. We just
You're
talking, we clearing it up, it's fine. We have Travis.
Yeah, I mean, because it's a language, it doesn't mean it's not a race. I mean, you can speak Japanese and be Japan. It doesn't mean that you're not Japanese.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
mean, you can be Chinese and you can be from China,
Yeah.
Chinese and speak Chinese.
Yeah,
One
but
doesn't exclude the other.
yeah, but the point that I think she was bringing out is that the word Eber or Hebrew is the language that crossed over through the bloodline. And usually when most people hear Hebrews today, they say, okay, they're the Jews, they're the Israelites.
Yeah.
So just making sure, we understand it from a what you would call scholarly level. Travis with a comment. We're gonna go through these questions. We only got 4 minutes for you to get in. 515-605-9327. We're going to go as long as we can. The broadcast will be officially over in 4 minutes, but we're going to see if we can keep the doctor on just to answer some of these questions in overtime. So if you're not in within the next 4 minutes, sorry, you're going to have to call back next week and have your voice heard. Okay. Travis, you're live with the Gathering of Christ Church.
Hey, Shalom. I got a quick question for the doctor. Doctor, what's been your experience dealing with other Christian leaders, other Christian black leaders in the churches regarding truth, and getting away from that feel-good, philosophy that sounds good, but obviously when you leave church for an hour, you forget it. So, what's been your experience with any colleagues you have in the church, the black church?
Well, like I was telling the elder, that I've had good success so far. I've been on the road constantly for about a year. And, brother, you're talking about feel-good stuff. This is feel-good stuff when you are standing there teaching and helping people to understand that we are the authors of salvation history, and we are the actors in salvation history is something that we invented through the power of God. God used us to bring salvation history into this world. I mean, you can't get a better feeling than that. And so it has been my experience as I have done this, particularly in African-American churches. I told the elder earlier that it seems like we are doing this at the right time because people are hungry for it and they want it. And so I haven't had not much, if any, pushback against it. I've had questions, and it's okay to be questions because that's
90 seconds.
Oh, don't worry about that. It's just ticking down.
Skills. Yeah.
It's ticking down. Okay.
So yeah, yeah.
So, Doc,
Excuse me, doctor. He also had a comment.
Let me clarify.
You had a comment. Do your comment so we can go to the next call because we have Elder Rawchaa on the line.
Just the T.D. Jakes style type preaching. That's what I mean. That feel good. That's not biblical. It just sounds good, but philosophy.
60 seconds.
That's what I mean. That's it. Shalom, Elder. Shalom.
All right, shalom. Bless you, my brother. Great points.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we have to. Yeah, I wonder why there's not enough. There's not enough united voices in the Christian church publicly denouncing the prosperity movement in guys like T.D. Jakes. I'm talking about from a united front, but that's a conversation within itself. Let's bring in Elder Rawchaa real quick. Elder Rawchaa, you on the line. Talk to us. You on the line with Dr. Theron D. Williams.
Hey, shalom, doctor. Shalom, elders. Blessings. How you doing?
Bless you.
How's
Shalom.
everyone this evening?
Great.
Blessed by the best, and his name is Ahaya. Talk to us.
Hey, I'm listening to the broadcast, and I came in a bit late. But
10 seconds.
The gist of the conversation here, and blessings to the doctor man doing the work. Waking up the people, letting them know who they are, because as we all can see, even the blind can see it right now that the Most High is waking up his people all over. I just found out last night, believe it or not, that there's a sister within the church here in Jamaica who comes to church on a Sabbath and is going to her Sunday church and trying to drop and sow the seeds in a Sunday church. I had no idea that was going on until last night. So people waking up. You understand? People coming to the knowledge, and it's like, when you look at it, say 10 years ago, 9 years ago, when I came into the truth, as to how it is now, it's no longer the question of are we the people? The question is now is, okay, then what are we gonna do now as the people? How we gonna bring this home and finish and finish as the Bible says? And that's really the main point right now. How are we gonna finish this in unity, in love, in the spirit, and in the spirit of Christ? How are we going to come together right now and have more discussions like these with our brethren who are waking up out of the Christian church? You understand me? How are we gonna bring this together now as a nation of people? Because everybody can see it. The political system is a failure. The church is a failure. Your schools, universities are failure. You with me? It's only the only resolve that we have right now is coming back to the Most High. You with me? And there's an impending war on the horizon right now, and a war aimed at this. I'm looking at a thing called someone sent me a message Let me see if I can find it here. Where is it? Let me see if I can find it here. The Operation Iron Fist, targeting groups that identify with a black identity. You with me? Sooner or later, right now, we're gonna be labeled as terrorists. We're gonna be counted amongst the transgressors right now. You with me? But it's true because they can't stop it. It's coming. You with me? So what are we going to do right now? And and just posing this question to the pastor. Pastor, what are we going to do right now? As a nation of people coming back to the Most High. If you could, if there's any suggestions that you have or any plans that you have right now, because there's a destruction coming, aiming at the children of Israel. And we're going to the book of the Second Ezra and the Apocrypha. It's evident. You with me? And it tells you the only refuge that we're going to have is those who keep the laws of the Most High through Christ. So this is where this is a conversation I believe that is needed to be had, because knowing that we're Israel, like you said earlier before, Christ is the way. Knowing that Israel is just a part of the puzzle. What are we going to do right now in Christ? How are we going to build back the nation in Christ? You understand? And like the Bible says, the kingdom cometh not by observation. And that's my 2 pence.
Thank you, Elder. I'm definitely going to call you after the broadcast. Great points. All right. Would you like to answer to anything you've just said, Pastor? Dr. Theron?
Well, I mean, he basically what I got from his question is, since we know this, what are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
And one of the things about the Bible is Black History Institute is linking up with the gathering of Christ Church and others who have recognized, coming to the knowledge of who they are in God, who they are in Christ, and that this book is about the history of our people. And I believe it's galvanized and coming together as one body, recognizing that, and coming together on the basis of our shared beliefs, coming together on the basis of our love and our respect for one another, and our corporate worship for one God, acknowledging that Jesus Christ is the Messiah. If we can come together along those lines, I mean, it is unimaginable what God can do through his people.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're saying this, Doctor, because I see some people in the comment, and I understand what they're saying. Okay, they can hear clearly where there may be a disagreement in doctrine or whatever the case is. But I need y'all to check this out, brothers and sisters. Even Paul says when he was a child, he thought as a child, but when he came of age, he put away childish things and childish thinking. Christ died for our nation. He died for sinners. He died for those, whether they agreed or disagreed. He died. And we have to be at a point where once you come of age and understand the Spirit of Christ and really cleave to that, you tend to link into that Spirit and try to work with someone, your own brother or sister, starting first where we agree. Instead of the adverse drawing swords and not getting to that point of being able to help each other, knowing that each of us are part of the body and has an intricate part that will help us get from point A to point B. And I'm not going to have one doctrinal misunderstanding keep me from building an understanding with my family.
That's right.
We don't throw our children out and our uncle out. We know our uncles and cousins and aunts are doing all types of stuff. We don't just throw them out because they're wrong, because they're family. We have to extend this. Pastor. We have to extend this spirit.
And they don't throw us out when we're wrong.
Exactly. So the whole deal is, when I was young, I used to walk down the street with a Mitri, like in a Bible like a sword, waiting on a pastor, waiting on someone. But you know what? Even though I knew the Bible and was breaking down scriptures, we the Hebrews and all that, it was no Hebrew Israelites in my community feeding our people like the pastors, setting up institutions like the pastors, having food drives like the pastor. So even though we had the word and was following the law, where was the fruit? So what I'm saying is, brothers and sisters, the Most High wants us to put our childish thinking aside and take the wealth, the spirit, the knowledge that our people have who do know how to deal with institutions, who do know how to work with people, who have a love for our people. And guess what? We can utilize their part and they'll utilize ours. No longer am I looking for where we are at variance at when Christ died for all of us. It's time for us to come together, folks. Just like I read his book, and guess what? We have his book. Do I agree with everything in his book? Of course not. But check this out. If I wrote a book when I first got the knowledge based on what I had at that time, I would look back at it and say, well, okay, I learned this. Let me revise this and do another volume because obviously I'm not finished learning. I'm still living. So we have to be patient. With patience, possess ye your soul, folks. We have to stop looking for reasons to shut the door on each other due to disagreement. Don't you know that's part of our curse? That a nation divided against itself cannot stand? I believe this pastor is serving the same God I'm serving. I went to Christian church. I was raised on a Sunday. I was all that, but the Most High have taken me to a different point where I am in my life. And it's not to negate where he is, but the Most High have him where he is for a purpose. Folks, I just wanted to say that real quick. I'm sorry, Pastor. Let me go down the line.
No, that's okay, Elder.
All right. Okay.
Elder, I appreciate your show. I appreciate you having me on, but I do have to run. I've got some other stuff to do before I shut it down for the night, man.
Well,
and
Pastor,
I do want to encourage you to keep up the great work, man. You're a blessing to the body of Christ.
Thank you, my brother, and I hope to sit down and break bread with you soon. All right.
All righty, man. That sounds good.
All right, bless you.
Bless you, Elder.
There go
Talk to
Dr.
you soon.
Theron D. Williams, and guess what? He's gone for the night, but we're going to continue our phone call. You can just hang up, sir, and I'm going to call you tomorrow, and I'll reach out to you. All right? There you go, Dr. Theron D. Williams. Let's go down the line and have these phone calls. Before I do that, of course, I have to bring in our residential elder, who's on standby. Elder Lawya, where you at, young man? I didn't forget about you.
Shalom, sir. How you doing?
I'm blessed by the best, and his name is Ahia. Talk to me, young man. What do you think about the conversation this evening?
It looks like Elder Gabar turned to Elder Lawya.
Oh, yeah.
They got my.
Let me
It's
move
okay.
you over.
Like-
I'm sorry. Man, I'm hold on. He have light skinned arms, but it looked like Lawya.
He was like, there's a magic trick. He just appeared out of nowhere.
I'm like, yo.
The same blue shirt.
I know.
Where Gabar went?
He was a literal. Gabar was a literal cake unturned. He had Lawya's head and Gabar's body. Talk to me, Lawya.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think that last portion of dialogue that you just brought up, as it pertains to some of the comments,
Yeah.
I think that really you took the words right out of my mind, right out of my mouth, and you put things in perspective for a lot of brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to mention on that is that there is no person that we are going to speak to that's going to agree 100% with everything that we bring forward.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, nonetheless, we still have to know how to deal and interact with these people because they have a piece to the puzzle. They have connections, or whatever the case may be. They have avenues, whatever it may be, that's beneficial to our people.
Yeah.
Everyone may not be as open to receive the information as we bring it forward. To some people, we may seem as loving as we are, as respectful as we are. Some people may view how we bring the truth as extreme.
Yeah.
So you may have another person who may bring it in another fashion that they may be used to, again, may not agree 100% with what we bring forward, but they bring things in a fashion that a certain demographic can agree to. And eventually, it's up to the Most High to bring forth the elect and to actually, bring forth those who he deems to be his remnant, those who will be his chosen in the end. It's not necessarily that, okay, you're following this doctrine at this point does not mean that you will be there at the end, and vice versa, because someone else follows another doctrine does not necessarily mean that they won't be there at the end, standing before Christ receiving the crown. This is the scaling down process that we're going through. But nonetheless, I think overall it was a very good conversation. I think, we have opened up an opportunity to where we can actually dialogue with the brother and bring certain points and bring certain information that at this point still may be disagreements, but respectfully, we can sit down, have certain dialogues to bring certain things together, and then also, use the different avenues and the different connections, so on and so forth, to get into certain places to bring forth the truth
Exactly.
based on what we know. You understand what I'm saying? So it doesn't have to be necessarily a negative thing that we don't agree on everything. So that's just what I wanted to bring out on the conversation. But nonetheless, a very, very good dialogue.
Yeah, absolutely, Elder. Yeah, and what I'm starting to realize is that I think this is the second pastor that I have seen, maybe the third, that has brought out either a book or a documentary or understanding that the people of color in America are the Hebrews, Israelites.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm starting to realize is that deep-rooted, fundamental doctrine of the misunderstanding of Paul's writings.
Man, it's powerful.
It's
Man, let me
underestimating
tell you,
that thing.
That's more powerful and deeply rooted than the white image. They can put down the white image, but to put down the doctrine that came with it, that's the real battle.
That's a big
but I'm
challenge,
going to
though.
say this
Yeah.
though. On the other hand, is you have to tip your hat or at least give credit to a pastor in this day and time who would say, well, listen, I was against something, but at least I did some research.
Yeah.
And one thing about him, he's a learned man.
Yeah.
He's a humble man. You understand? And, one thing about him, he's not a proud man. You notice how he says, I made mistakes too. I'm not going to say that I've been coming up roses all my life.
Yeah.
So we have to realize that this man have a lot of attributes that he learned by reading and walking this life and following Christ.
Yeah.
And no one can deny that. And so the whole thing is, I must at least give him credit for saying, you know what? Because so many pastors turn up their nose. I've been out speaking to the pastor, which just walk away and don't care and think he has it all and don't even think to research and say, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's something incorrect that I can change. So let me tell you, because I believe the same spirit that led him to point A to where he is in this conversation tonight will lead him further. Because don't forget, even though I'm conversating, I dropped a few things in between there. So at least, once it's dropped out there, you can't put it back. You can't pull it back.
Yeah.
Because I made sure I put out there, I'm like, well, the holy days are there. And so you said that, you sanctifying what's against the Bible or whatever. So, I'm sure that's, I'm sure that's gonna drive him in a different direction. The same way he found out that the Bible is a black man's book, he's gonna look at Paul's writings again, like you said, because that's what type of guy he is. He don't want to be the one on the wrong end of things.
Yeah.
Because he have a desire to teach his flock correctly.
Yeah.
I can tell that.
Yeah.
So he's going to look at those holy days again, even if he didn't say anything outwardly.
Yeah.
He's going to look at those again.
Yeah.
He did it before, and it led to a book and what? A phone conversation with the Gathering of Christ Church. Let's go down the line. Hey, God, I'm going to
mention one more thing.
Okay, go ahead, Lawya. Yeah.
Yes, if I can mention one more thing. Let's say hypothetically he stays where he is in his journey.
Yeah.
Based on this book that he's written, someone is going to pick up that book, read that information, and eventually they're going to take it, their journey to the next step. So it still may bear fruit, even if he decides to stay where he is. We still have to look at the fruit that it may bear in the future based on those who will come across this book, had no idea who they were, came to the knowledge of who they were, but still sought further and decided that, maybe the holy days are more important than what we once believed. Yeah. Maybe there's other points to the doctrine that are more important than what we once believed.
Exactly.
Let me take my journey further based on the information that at least I received from this book.
Exactly. And you know what, Lawya, I'm going to keep you in with us. I'm going to keep Gaja with us. And you know what's good about this conversation we're having? The fact that we're having it.
Yeah.
Israelites are talking to each other. Israelites are waking up. And now those walls that was there due to doctrinal differences, they're crumbling, they're coming down. This is what the world feared. And eventually Esau is going to implode the whole thing. Okay, it's over. They're talking to each other. Their God is listening. They're gathering together. Let's pull the plug on this thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is what they want. They wanted us not to conversate with each other strictly off of doctrinal differences.
Yeah.
And like I said, he know he's an Israelite. He believe in Christ. Guess what? That's my brother. He has a lot of other things he have to get together doctrinal wise, but there's some stuff that we got to get together too. And so the whole thing is the fact that the conversation has been had. Okay, you have a lot of people who know they're Israelites and deny Christ, follow the Sabbath, follow the holy days and all that, but yet they deny Christ. Well, guess what? You might as well go eat a pork chop sandwich. Okay, you might as well go eat a pork chop sandwich, dig a hole into hell, and wait, because that's where you're going. Okay, so folks, the whole thing is this, and I'm putting it out there: Christ is the way. He's the truth. He's the light. And you understand? And every opportunity this church has to have these types of conversations, we'll do it in respect of our guests. Regardless of what his doctrine is and what he believes different than us, when we pull in a brother or sister in here, they're our guests. And we're going to treat them as such. Come on, let's go down the line. 757 area code. Let's go. All right, 757 area code.
Shalom.
Shalom, talk to us.
Shalom, Elder.
Yeah.
Shalom, brother. Yeah, I just wanted to jump in really quick. Overall, I just want to comment, man. What a blessed evening, you know, man. Look at the Most High and His work, man. It's unbelievable, man. I've only been in the truth for about to be 3 years soon, but I've listened to and watched over 150 videos, had to be, and I'm telling you, it's amazing.
Praise the Most High.
It's amazing, Elder, how your job, you know, for Christ's sake, bless you for doing Christ's job, but your job that you're doing in service to Him is getting easier and easier, brother. And I've been praying for that for you. You've been battling, brother, and I'm just grateful to see that, you know, all the work and effort that all you elders been putting in, you know, it's really, you know, coming to fruition. And I know it has to be a good feeling for you, because it's a good feeling for me, because, man, to see people constantly battling with you and constantly just rejecting the word of God, and it's right there, for you to just be the man you are and stick with it, man, for Christ's sake, just big ups to you, Elder, man. We love you. We thank you. Bless you, Pastor Williams, man. You know, just continue in your work, brother. And we're going to all get there one day, man. That's all I got. Shalom.
And thank you. Praise the Most High. And you know what? Hey, the Most High is not only just working with me. He's working with the truth. He's working with you, brother. And guess what? He's working with these elders. Because usually when Gaja come in, he just trying to spill guts and blood all over the place. And just cut his stuff squirting all over the place, and I'm sitting there I'm trying to sew it back up, and he's no, Elder, and they trying to come with swords. You know, I'm trying to tap Elder Gabar, because Elder Gabar about to go into the Pauline thing, and I'm like, no, let's leave this for the academy. It's a, you know, like they say, Jerusalem wasn't built in a day. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Heck with Rome. Jerusalem wasn't built in a day. So, you know, I'm going to tell you, a lot of these elders, a lot of our brothers and sisters are becoming our elders, and you have become more patient with our people. I mean, you know, so I thank the Most High. And, hey, brother, hey, a lot of you are doing great things, I know. And, hey, it's your turn. It's your turn to stand in the patience. And we have to show as an example as elders, so that y'all can step in and finish. That's what this work is about.
Right, and that's why, I
Yeah.
wanted to kind of open the door of
Yeah.
let's have a conversation after the fact, because I didn't want it to become a
Yeah,
debate. But I just wanted
exactly.
him to just open the possibility that the trickery of us being Israel, was
Yeah.
there also a conspiracy, an agenda?
On the doctrine,
Of
trying to
doctrine
play
as well.
Paul against Christ.
Yeah, was
so
that
that they
also
can
part of the
still
plan?
come up with the same conclusion.
Exactly.
Still minimizing who we are
Yeah.
and upping the Gentiles,
Right.
right? Exactly.
Right.
I know where you're going. I know where you're going.
Because it's like this. I think
seen it.
the way they're going, it's like, okay, we got to get them on both sides. Okay, if we can't stop them finding out who they are, okay, let's try to get the doctrine.
The doctrine wise.
Okay, we can't get them this way. Let's get them another way. Let's get them-
Exactly.
It's just layers and layers and layers
Exactly.
that we have to start looking at in regards.
So how do we overcome it? We discuss it in spite of our differences.
Yeah.
That's what they didn't expect.
That's
they,
what-
they wanted
exactly.
that doctrinal wall to stop us from ever having this conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
And even when, soon as we had that discussion on this book a few weeks ago, everyone and their mama, like Jesse
Yeah.
Lee Peterson said, went and brought the book. And I had AC, aunt from Virginia, his father, they vetted the book, and they was calling me, Elder, do you know what's in the book? And he started going through some things, and I'm like, well, listen, I'm not saying that the brother, wrote a Bible. Of course, there's some doctrinal differences there. That's not the Bible there, but we have to give him credit for what he's done so far.
Yeah.
And we have to make sure that, listen, understand that there may be some doctrinal differences in the book.
Yeah.
But you must take all the good out and spit
Yeah.
out the bones.
Yeah, even the
Yeah.
brother that wrote from Babylon to Timbuktu.
Yeah.
He we had him on the show years ago.
Yeah, Rudolph R.
He-
Windsor,
Yeah,
yeah.
he had different editions
Yeah.
of his books because he realized through the years he was more came across more information,
So he
and he
started
had to change
volumes. Yeah,
different the old volume to the new volume. Yeah, so
Exactly,
that
exactly.
happens all the time.
And you know what?
Yeah.
I was about to write a book in 2009. Similar to him is my experience in the truth, doctrinal understandings, how to break down things, and end up becoming the Hebrew and Bible Academy, really, with the lessons. Instead of me telling the journey and the doctrinal deceptions that are out there and putting it in a book, it became
Right.
the Hebrew and Bible Academy.
That's
But
profound.
yeah, but the whole thing is, I'm glad that I didn't put it in a book and let the Bible be the book and me teach the
Right.
Hebrew and Bible Academy.
Right.
Because as I grow and the doctrine becomes more clearer and things I didn't know before, I don't have to go back and say, well,
Re-edit it.
in this volume, this is where I was 10 years ago and was incorrect.
Yeah.
Let me make another book to correct it. I'm
Yeah.
glad I didn't do it.
Yeah,
Because I believe the Bible stands on its own, and we just have to make sure we teach the correct doctrine
Yeah.
out of it. Not to say that those books aren't tools; they are.
yeah,
I mean, I used from Babylon to Timbuktu, Lawya and I and all of us in our classes, like in the academy, all the time.
Yeah.
Taking excerpts from it. The man is a genius and was a genius for his time.
yeah,
Writing a book against the power.
yeah,
Uplifting our people. We use his reference out of even though we know, and to make it clear, the Europeans are not Japheth. Let me put that out straight out right now. They would like you to believe they're anyone but Esau.
yeah.
I'm going to put that out there. And I'm not going to say that because this is what I think or imagine. I've researched it.
Yeah.
We did a study 2 weeks ago, Who's Edom? And guess what? It links directly to Queen of England. It links, believe it or not, to Barack Obama too. He's connected to the Edomites on his mother's side. It links to George Bush. It links to the Wetton family, who took on the names of the British monarchy, and the Wetton family was from Germany. And their bloodline is linked to Odin, what they say the legend of Odin, but when you look at the legend of Odin, it's just, believe it or not, it's just a flamboyant story or a fascinated story of Edom. When they claim he died and graduated into what you would call God, the god's pantheon. They said that after Edom died, he became Odin. Well, the bloodline goes straight to the British family of England till this day. So we don't have to figure out whether or not they're Japheth. The original Japhetic people were Asian. Just because they were in Europe and the original sons of Ham, Japheth had the landmass of what we call Asia Minor, that doesn't mean that the Europeans who conquered Asia Minor are Japhetic people.
Yeah.
All right? I wanted to put that out there.
Yeah.
I'm clearing that up. If you get the book, he may say Japheth, but he just haven't researched that part yet.
And that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
At least he know that the black people in America are the real Jews, and that's a great start.
Amen.
All right, let's go. Let's go real quick. Let's go down the line. Only a few more because we have to run.
The next one.
Ahaba with a comment.
No, I think that's the next. Okay, that's it. Yep, that's
Okay,
it.
and then I'm
That's
going to bring in Ramar. I'm sure Ramar wants to say something here. Talk to us.
it. You're live, sister.
You're live.
Shalom.
Shalom. How you doing, Ahaba?
I'm well. I was listening, and it was a joy to be able to hear this lesson that more people are waking up.
Yeah.
What stood out to me that he mentioned was about holidays. I heard you guys ask him about it,
Yeah.
and he couldn't really give a direct answer, but he did say love them. And so what came to mind for me was how long it takes for people to be able to grasp that, even once they become conscious of who they are. So something I managed to find works for me when speaking with people about holidays and being able to let them go is love. He mentioned love. But the thing is I'll ask them, well, when you love someone, if someone loves you, what are your expectations of them to show you that they love you? That's usually how I ask them. And then from there, it's easier for them to get it. So that was one of the big things that stood out when he spoke. And I know it takes a minute for people to get there. I'm just glad to have listened and be able to be a part of this awakening and hear more and more people coming into the understanding of who they are every day. It's beautiful. Very beautiful.
Well, thank you, sister. And those are some great points you just brought forth. I'm going to place you on hold, okay?
Thank you, sister, for your comment.
All right.
I believe that, guess what? I take the good pieces, right, and understand that, hey, if you miss some of what he said, then you're missing it. Because before he said anything, he said what? When I asked him the question of the holy days, his response was, I know they're pagan.
That was kind of strong.
Right there, boom. That's all he had to put out there. That he know they were pagan. That's it. Because now, not whether or not it's right or wrong, it's how those who hear it takes that information and what they do with it. Hold up, Pastor. You said you knew they were pagan, but you didn't. When are you going to teach us that? Now, I'm not going to be there for that conversation. All right? He will.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
So the whole thing is the fact that it's on record where someone would say, well, I know something is not of God, but we do it anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
That came out. I didn't make them say that. It's out there. Hey.
But, baby steps.
But there's baby steps. But the whole thing is that I didn't need a debate. He already said before he came back and said that, he didn't use the word grace, but he says it in a way in which, you know what I mean? What word he used to say he do something with it?
He sanctified it.
He's cleansed it.
He cleansed it.
He cleansed it. Before he cleanses it, he admitted that it was pagan.
So the question is, what authority did God gave man to cleanse
When
something?
did God say that you can cleanse? Woe to them that call evil good and evil and good evil.
What can you make straight? The Most High is crooked.
How can you make straight what the Most High made crooked?
Yeah.
So really, I didn't have to do anything. When someone admit what they dealing with is wrong, but they're doing it anyway, hey, what can I say? What debate? There's no debate. That's it. Someone is going to look at that and say, well, hold up, Pastor. I know the Jews are black, but we're going to have to talk about this too.
Yeah,
right?
and what I notice is that most people, they're betting or they're putting the second commandment against the first commandment. In other words, every single time we talk about Sabbath and feast days that God has ordained, they always jump into feeding the homeless, loving, walking the old lady across
Of
the street,
course.
which is all thing
Yeah.
is important. I'm not saying that,
It's a
you know,
perfect way of
as
getting
if
off
as
the point.
if
Yeah.
this man who I'm feeding is more important than God Almighty.
What-
So it's
what-
like I don't have to keep the Sabbath because I just gave this guy a sandwich.
Well, like
and
I
that's
said,
what's important.
Like I'm saying, if I'm getting up out of somewhere, you have to strike up some dust first.
Yeah,
And when the dust settles, I'm out of there.
exactly.
So the love is the dust.
Right.
It's like, okay, hold up. We're not celebrating Easter, we're celebrating Passover. The cloud of love comes up,
Right.
and when the dust settles, we're already talking about
Right.
the Africans or
Yeah,
whatever. So
yeah.
you know what it is.
Yeah, but it's a common
it
thing
is-
with modern
yes.
Christendom.
Listen.
They always throw in the
Hey.
love and how
Hey,
you're supposed
listen.
to treat your humanity to disregard God's
Let
commandment.
me tell you, it's the
Yeah.
greatest escape hatch
Yeah.
known to man,
Yeah.
because who can disagree with love? Okay, it's like listen, who can disagree with that?
Yeah.
Well, what's more important is love.
Right.
Okay, but anyway, let's go down the line. Only a few more. We have Yakan with a comment and Anthony with a comment. Shalom.
Shalom, how you doing?
I'm blessed by the best.
Hey.
Ahaya is his name.
That's awesome. Hey, I wanted to say I really enjoyed what the pastor was saying with the historical content in regards to what the church has contributed.
Exactly.
And you can't discredit him for that at
Yeah.
all. You know, that's some legitimate stuff there. Now, like you guys said, he doesn't have the full truth, but it takes time. I was introduced to this stuff when I was 18. I'm 36 years old. It was
praise
a
the Most High.
progression.
Yeah.
You know, it takes time. But at the end of the day, he has the core. He has the common denominator, which is Christ.
Exactly.
And with that it will come. I truly believe it's going to come for him and for many more, because the Hebrew nation, I believe that we need the Christian church in the sense of we need their love. They need us. We need each other. It's not it can't be just a one-sided thing. And so I think in due time that the Most High is going to bring us together, and we will become one, because we're all one nation.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed him. I enjoy his book. Like you said, he doesn't have everything accurate, and we know that. We have our truth, and we know our truth.
Yeah.
But I think that the fact that he's open to hear what we have to explain to him and what we know is awesome in itself. So,
Yeah, brother.
Yeah.
that's
Go ahead,
all.
Owen.
Hey, as a matter of fact, I don't want to send you that book. I hope you liked it. You know.
Yeah, you said that. Man, thank you, brother. I got it. And I'm going to tell you, his story is interesting nonetheless. And I'll tell you, the Most High delivered light to him. And it was to the degree in which he had to share. When you look at his experience from from a Christian background, you can't ignore Christ's hand in this man's awakening. Straight out. And hey,
Yeah.
who can be against that?
Yeah, because
Thank you,
I
brother.
truly believe that the battle is going to be won when the mainline Christian community start having the discussion, because when they're having the discussion, and the brothers that are from the different camps, the Israelite camps and things of that nature, and so forth, so on.
Yeah.
When you look at them, and they've been doing the work, and they I'm not denying their work either, but when you look at when an average Joe walks down the street in an average ghetto or urban city, you pass 3 churches, 5 churches, 7, 10 churches before you see one Israelite church.
Yeah.
So the battle needs to be won in those buildings, in the Christian churches.
Yeah,
because that's where the majority of the people are in.
But I'm going to tell you right now, the Most High right now, and the only euphemism or example I can use right now, you're a fighter, you understand, and you grew up a fighter, mixed martial arts and all that. The only example I can use with with a little satire is that the fact that the Christian church is getting bodied right now. Okay, and I'm gonna be straight with you. That's why he even said, "Listen, these millennials aren't going for what used to
work for
be, the old time gospel.
Those days are over.
The Most High is hitting these churches with uppercuts and hooks, and I'm gonna tell you right now, it's to the degree, and I know this, and I mentioned this before, in setting up these churches, our churches, Israelites are growing. And we're growing out of those who are leaving the Christian church or didn't believe at all. You'd be surprised how many atheists who were baptized in this church because the Christian church couldn't explain to them the common sense written of in the Bible. So the atheists know how to convert or to throw shade or doubt on a believer because the Christians haven't learned under theologian teachings. They really don't have a great argument against atheists. And many atheists have been converted and come into the truth. But going back to Christians, we found out that a lot of pastors with buildings, they can't hardly sell the buildings because they're not worth what it was when they purchased it. And in order for them to keep the doors open, they must rent the church to 3 separate pastors where they're having churches in 2-hour shifts because people are not going to church like that anymore. They're having 3 services in one day in the black church.
The boomers is dropping.
Exactly. And they're renting out the church hourly now. Why? Because people are leaving it. So the Most High has fulfilled. He says he's going to begin to destroy the idols of these churches. And the Most High is hitting these black churches with uppercuts, hooks, left hooks, rights, jabs, left.
And let me go ahead. Finish your thought.
And I know I'm being a little facetious here, but you know what? And if the churches continue to compromise, the Most High will continue to tear it down. If you continue to allow it to be taken over to the degree where it started off not just with the civil rights movement, but allowing women to become pastors over churches. And then you have people sitting back, others looking like, listen, we know that the Bible says a woman is not supposed to be in position. The 12 disciples were men. Okay, Christ was a man. So what's to stop others from looking at that and saying, well, y'all let women in? Well, why can't gay people be in there? What's the difference? God said don't do it, and you all are allowing it. And it's where we are today. It has taken the church. The church is on a downward spiral. And the only saving grace the Most High have out there, folks, is the truth of who our people are. If you're not teaching this, you're going to lose that congregation because those people don't belong to you. They belong to the God of Israel.
It's funny you just mentioned about the churches. New York, we're looking for our own building now and things of that nature. But we rent space from other churches and and things of that nature. And one of the things that every pastor or deacon or person that gets to see the population that comes in every Shabbat, the number one thing is, how do you get these young people in this church?
Exactly.
They are, how do you do it? And they're calling me, asking me, what do you do? What kind of program?
We're
Can
just
we work
teaching the
together?
truth.
And I was like, I'm not doing anything.
You're doing a lot, brother. You're teaching.
I'm just doing it. I'm doing the scripture. I'm not. There's no secret. There's no. He's thinking we're doing some profound hip, thing with the young people. No, we're not doing none of that.
What type of philosophy? Because they used to it being a gimmick. Maybe it's the purpose-driven life. Maybe it's that. No, it's no gimmick at all. You know what? The truth actually works. Our children are looking for it.
Exactly.
And I'm glad you dropping that because now you can have a contract with a building and you will have pastors come through. And even Fresnel told me about this. They'll see the church packed with Israelites, our people who was once in the Christian church. And the next Sunday, no one's in there. You will have the pastor who's written out Sabbath. Wasn't making no money on the Sabbath. They've written it to us. And they'll look at the people in there and start counting the number and just want to tear up the contract to charge with a new lease. They want a new lease because there's people on Saturday and not Sunday.
Yeah.
Listen, this Saturday was here before we begin to rent in your church. You ignored it. The people on this Sabbath wouldn't have been here if it was Sunday worship. So what's keeping your church together is the Lord's Sabbath. But yet they're looking at how to aggrandize themselves off of it instead of saying, maybe we should try this. Maybe we should try this.
Yeah. Yeah, the younger people are smarter than our fathers, man. They got to listen to the young people.
And guess what? These are pastors too. They call it. They want to tear up the contract and say, well, no, we gotta renegotiate. We didn't know that y'all had people coming like that. What do you think? This is a hustle or something, brother? I'm giving you what you said you wanted. What's up with this? But you know what? Because it's hard for them to keep their doors open, folks. Without the truth, let me tell you, the Most High is tearing down these churches. It's to the degree where there's a compromise where it's now, okay, well, the LBGT have become a serious political juggernaut for the last decade. So now they must pander to the only constituents left. Because the LBGT wants to be invited, wants to be included in the Christian church.
That's profound.
So now they're saying, well, hey, we had to have the women pastors stay
desperate,
because there was nothing but women.
Yeah.
Now we must compromise to this degree because they want to become a part of something. And if we don't invite them in, we're losing all the millennials.
Well, you know, they had the gay, the transgender. They have the, all kinds of different.
So they're forced, they're handcuffed.
Okay.
Because of the original compromise, they must continue the compromise or close the doors.
They're not turning that generation over.
Exactly.
It's grandmothers. I love my mom. I go to her church. She has a little storefront.
Yeah.
Everybody is 60 and older. Everybody.
Yeah. Still playing the tambourines.
Yeah,
and it's about 8 people up in there.
Yeah, and then I come pick her up, give her a kiss, and she's like, "Come."
And it's okay. It's okay because she's comfortable. She's used to the people she's around.
She's holding,
Hey.
And it's a sad situation, but the older generation has to listen to the what's going on.
Yeah.
And don't be set in their ways.
Yeah.
And things of that nature. And it was funny because my mother, bless her, we would always talking about the Sabbath and things of that nature. She was always against it.
Yeah.
And there was a pastor from Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
And he started looking at the Sabbath.
Yeah.
And said, well, we have to start keeping the Sabbath. And then finally it got, because he was older, around her age. Yeah. He was renowned and respected, and from that generation, she started considering, okay, maybe, okay, we could keep both, things on it. But, I think what's going to happen is that because even older people waking up. I baptized people in the 60s and the 50s and said, listen, I always knew something was wrong, and when I saw it, I heed the call. So I think it's a profound thing that we've seen this. Yeah. And because when I was coming up, this would never happen.
Non-existent.
There was always brothers from the hood. There was always brothers from the ghetto. We Israel, they could see it because we saw it because we were the struggle.
Yeah.
We read Deuteronomy. Let me tell you something. The color scripture I was never really into that.
Yeah.
That Deuteronomy 28, man.
Yeah, man.
Woo!
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
I don't need no color scriptures. That's us.
Deuteronomy 28, like I said, I mean, that metaphor of being bodied, that Deuteronomy 28 bodies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's amen. So
absolutely, amen.
We but now even the people that are respected and perhaps are
professionals, the highly respected, those who would have never sniffed the word Israelite, or sniffed the thought, or even thought about Israel.
Yeah, and it's profound. It's coming from the ground up, like the brother just said. That's because now it's heading. It's affecting them.
It's heading up. Yeah, it's heading up amongst the to do good.
Yeah.
The professors.
Yeah.
Okay, the theologians. He's a theologian.
Yeah.
He have a doctorate. The Most High is moving. He did that. Look at Paul. Paul he understood many languages.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was a Pharisee, you
Yeah.
name it. But let me tell you, the
Roman
Most High,
citizen, yeah.
he is knocking down doors,
Yeah.
folks. And you know what? And also we have to, I'll be amiss if I didn't shout out a lot of our brothers and sisters like you all.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take for granted some of the jewels you'll be dropping on people. You think that it's falling on deaf ears? No. We get those phone calls where a brother or sister said, well, I just ran into a brother or sister. Someone was talking to me in a restaurant or in a supermarket, and I just had to call because they gave me this, and I seen y'all videos, and I had to call. You all are doing more work out there than you think. Okay, than you think, right?
Amen. Also, before we take the next call,
Yeah.
I'm going to make a quick announcement. Okay, I'm going to be traveling certain areas, so
Yeah.
I want these people to know where I'm going to be and things of that nature. Syracuse, New York. Okay, we're going to be I'm going to be up there on, let's see, August 31st. Okay, not this Saturday, next Saturday. Okay, and whatever's going on up there, that's not GOCC. When we go up there, we're going to meet with the brothers and the sisters, and we're going to establish the Gathering Christ Church in Syracuse when I get there and things of that nature. So whatever other people are doing, that's not us.
That's not us. If they claim they're with us and they're in Syracuse, they're lying.
Yeah. So just because they call in the name of Ahia,
Exactly.
okay, and Yeshaya, which they're learning from us,
Yes.
okay, from the elders of the church, if it doesn't mean they're with us. We have to ordain people to teach and lead the flock.
Exactly.
And we're gonna, so I'm gonna be up there. And if you are in Syracuse in that area upstate, and you're looking to fellowship, okay, you send an email or send an email to goccnyc@gmail.com. goccnyc@gmail.com, and we'll let you know what area we're going to be to establish something up in Syracuse. Also, the brothers in Kentucky, I haven't forgot about you. We're going to be heading up there as well. I know you guys have been patiently waiting and going to the Ohio area. So you just keep going to Ohio for the time being until we establish something in the near future. So I just want to also drop that.
Okay, and another thing I wanted to say, one moment.
Yeah.
1 second here. Yeah, another thing I wanted to say real quick. Tomorrow we'll be going to look at the venues for the album release.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
October 6th, we will be doing the album release party.
Yeah.
I think the venue will hold about 500 people.
Yeah.
And it's going to be limited seats for those who would like to be a part of it. Next week, we'll be making the official announcement, and soon you'll be able to purchase tickets if you'd like to be a part of the official release of the Gathering of Christ Church's album. It's going to be called Purpose. It's going to be a 2-set CD. 12. One purpose is inspire, and the other 12 will be praise. And we're going to try to have a short play there, as well as a short play. We're going to also work on having a fashion show.
Yeah.
And we're going to have the Israelite gear, the modest, the
Yeah.
nice looking gear.
Yeah.
And we're going to have the release party showing the music and bringing forth praise of the Most High with the release. Right now, we have a song out there that's gaining momentum called A Higher Power Is With Me. I'm singing it. We have Maestro Michael Baptiste. He's on the music, and you can get that Google. You can go to Google Play. You can go to iTunes and type in Rawchaa, my name, or A Higher Power Is With Me, and support the music. Is gaining a lot of momentum right now.
Yeah.
And we're going to use this music as a vehicle to get into some of these churches, to do more community service, to throw free concerts in the neighborhood and drop the fact that the Bible is a black man's or a black book, that is black history, and we can get away from the atheist thinking, the immoral thinking, the thug thinking, and not only that, bring morality and respect back to the name of Israel. And that's what it's about. This music is going to be about keeping relationships together. Even if we're having issues, why don't we love each other through this?
Yeah.
Okay, endurance. We're going to deal with songs about Christ coming back. We have the choir.
Yeah.
We also have the videos, A Higher Powers With Me, Save Me. You have us all. You have individuals like myself and others at one time who thought we were alone in this fight. And we were just asking, Lord, just save me through this. I know you exist. I mean, just show me, give me a sign. I'm giving up. And no sooner as that happened, the Most High the next day revealed that he was listening. And that's the song, Save Me. Okay, we have on there, A Slave's Journey. We're going to do a video where it starts off from the shores of Africa, and the same man that actually drug us over here and enslaved us is now learning from us at the end of a slave's journey. I mean, every song, it will be with a purpose to bring us together and to serve the living God. So please support the album.
Yeah,
I believe it's going to be groundbreaking.
Yeah.
As far as making sure that the right representation of music is out there and that music isn't lost. It's just been hijacked. It's been co-opted by those other people who are promoting the wrong music for our children. And it's time that we fight fire
with fire. Amen.
with water.
With water.
Let's fight fire with water.
That's an Ivan Power shirt right there. I want to get that tonight.
Let's fight fire with water.
Get baptized. In the name of
Man,
the
that's a
Father,
shirt,
Son,
man.
That's a shirt right there.
I Am Apparel.
So support that album. Okay,
Yes.
we're gonna be doing a lot more. You know, this is gonna be the first beta test, as you will. And then if this is successful, we believe we will. We're going to be going to different cities. We're going to be going to Atlanta. We're going to be going to Florida. We're going to be going to Texas. We're going to be going to California. And soon, Africa.
Africa. We have the Africa Initiative. We're going to be doing
Okay. So
all over the earth. And I Am Apparel. We're going to make the white garments. We're going to have white garments for sisters, different designs and all that. So soon you will be able to go to iamapparel.org. Children's gear. And guess what? Our choir, we're going to clothe our choir, especially for the video that we have to do.
Amen.
And hey, you're going to see white everywhere. In every city, you're going to see white. And we're not just going to be talking about the commandments and talking about Christ. In the community, feeding our people, being the forerunners, helping us transition in this time of transition.
Yeah, and what we're going to be doing also, we're starting and sponsoring youth basketball teams.
Exactly.
We're going to be sponsoring the uniforms. So the congregation, we're going to come together with the different elders, and because usually in the summers, usually mothers, we say, elders, my son, he's getting in trouble, he's hanging out. So we're going to set up, basketball leagues,
after school programs,
all that. We're going to be, actually different churches compete against each other, and we can also, have a little, basketball league for the youth. So that's coming soon. We're working on that. Last year we had the New York Giant Slayer against the Philly Majestics and things like that.
Yeah,
with success and things. I think New Jersey's getting a basketball team together for the Tabernacle, and also DMV is working on that. So we're gonna different programs also for the youth. We're gonna be doing that then. So that's coming down the pipe as well.
Someone asked, excuse me, how come in your Hebrew and Bible Academy you guys never teach the whole laws of Exodus and Deuteronomy? Well, the whole thing is we more so, and we teach the laws, but we more so teach the doctrinal differences to tear down the strongholds that have been taught in the minds of our people. You understand? How many times can we teach not to eat pork chops? How many times can we teach not to steal? If you can't follow the 10 Commandments, then we have a long way to go. And usually the other laws that's written up in Deuteronomy and Exodus are there. Why? Because we break the 10.
Right.
If you followed the 10, the other ones will be made void. Because if you steal, there's about 100 laws of restitution and restoration for a person that you stole from. If you commit adultery or fornication, there's 100 different laws now that you must fulfill based on you breaking that law. But if you didn't commit fornication or didn't sin, I wouldn't have to teach the whole Deuteronomy concerning the laws of restitution and restoration.
When you go into the scripture, like
it's simple,
like the law of quarrel against a brother, right?
Exactly.
There's 3 chapters just dedicated this scenario, that scenario.
Exactly.
But if they just keep the royal commandment, love your neighbor as yourself.
Exactly.
All those other chapters aren't even necessary.
Exactly.
So the
rest of the laws are in place for if you actually break one of the 10.
After you really did something wrong.
Exactly. So that's why. But again, you know what? And online we do have the law and the spirit of the law, which is the class in itself, breaking down the 10.
Yeah, there's a proper
And if
lesson.
and if you follow those 10, the other laws are made void because there's no restitution or restoration or having to, you know, having to apologize for having art if you didn't do art in the first place. So, and when it comes to things like not having your cotton with polyester and things of that nature, I understand that too, that you're not supposed to wear linens of different, of two separate linens
linen
in
and
one,
wool. Yeah.
right? And we try the best we can in I Am Apparel to make sure the stuff we sell, it's one fabric of
100%
whatever,
sprinkled
100%
cotton.
of
That's
what
what
that
we sell,
is.
yeah.
But the reality is, are you going to go around to everyone that's popping tags and look at it and say, hold up,
Yeah.
man, there's polyester in that.
Yeah.
So there's certain things that, you know,
And let me
you
just
be
make some,
straightening it in
just
that
some clarification
while
in regards
swallowing
to
the
that.
camel. Yeah.
When it says thou should not mix linen with wood,
Yeah.
with woolen, is when the word linen there, the Hebrew word there is flax,
Flax.
is meaning material that comes from plant.
Yeah.
So if you have cotton blend with a linen blend, they both come from with plants.
Yeah.
It's when you mix a material that comes from animals with a material
leather
that comes
with
with flax.
Exactly.
You know, but flax is flax and things like that. So sometimes people, so you could have, like, for instance, a mix of a little, some cotton with a little linen. That's fine because it all comes from flax. It
Yeah.
all comes from flax. I just want to also clarify that.
And then if you get a guy that's looking at your border and say, man, what color is that border of blue? That should be purple.
Yeah.
You know what you
That's
do?
going out there too. Yeah.
Ignore him.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what Christ states when he says, you strain at a gnat and swallow a camel. You'll tell us that the border of blue should be purple, but denounce or renounce the baptism of Christ.
Yeah.
You're backwards.
Yeah.
Find out Christ, and then we can work out the color of the border of blue
Right.
later.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? I wanted to put that out there. Because you have somebody, you know,
Yeah,
it's
that's a new thing now.
Israelite philosophers. Yeah, do you know that blue
Thank you
is
for
really
using
purple?
Blog Talk Radio.
Yeah.
Right?
Goodbye.
All right. I think that's the end of
it.
Blog Talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I can. Let's see.
Yeah, I think
Okay. That's it. I tried to talk, but I'm finished. Hey, all praises be to the Most High. I thank Ramar for producing, getting Dr. Theron Williams on this evening. And I thank you for your participation and your continual support of the Gathering of Christ Church. This couldn't be without your help, and I want to let you know we love and respect all of you for enduring with us. We also like to thank AC Anthony, who worked with us for 3 hours almost, setting up our production, as you see before you now, where the sound is and everything is flawless now.
Yep.
With our new mixer, and we'll be coming to you with a better production going forward. So with that, I would like to say shalom to my brothers and sisters. Have a careful and spiritual night. Stay prayed up. Sin not. We will soon see Zion. Shalom.
Shalom.
My brothers and sisters.
All right. Great show.
You know what? Let's leave them out with a little music here.
Yeah.
Just a little something. Just a little something for my people. A higher power's with me. Make sure you get the project. You think that I can't see? A higher power's with me. A higher power's with me. Let me see if I can find a little bit of the song. Just type in Elder Rawchaa, get the project. Let's see if the song on here. I don't know if it's on here. Let's see. Here we go. Here's a little bit of it. for you all. They created in space. Oh yeah. You can do what you want to do. They tap our phones. We know you're listening. But you can't stop us. The truth is rising. We refuse. You think that I can't see? See what you're doing to me, yo. Our hands on your heel, I'm pulling through. They think that I can't see. A higher power's with me. Bless you, brothers and sisters. Get the project. Love you. Shalom. It's time.